to be bigger, you gotta step out and pray that it works. And I mean, that was kind of what it was. Like, I didn't do this intentionally, 100%. Like, 100% no intentions of doing it.
There's been such a weight that's been put on vulgarity, but not on gossip.
Right. I believe in the fact that there's gotta be more to life.
What do you do to stay confident in hair, but also keep being in a place where you're learning and humble?
Hello everyone and welcome back to Successful Failures Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today with episode 8. I know this one took a while. I had to do some things in the background to make sure that this would come out correctly and the way that I wanted it to, but today we are having an amazing conversation with Sarah Kunkle. Sarah is a hairstylist and owns her own salon, and today we have a conversation that ranges everything about small business ownership and what it means to be a hairstylist, how to talk to people, is the customer always right, and more topics like that. So I'm super excited for you guys to hear this conversation. First and foremost, before we get started, we have 2 quick announcements. Number 1, this is an extremely candid conversation. We are really blunt with it, and we talk about topics that aren't necessarily suitable for kids. So this is definitely one where we want to put content warning ahead of time. If you have kids in the car, I would recommend not playing this episode. Maybe show them other episodes like me talking to an amazing musician for 90 minutes or any of the other ones. This one is definitely more raw, and I want to maintain the original integrity of that, so that's why I have this content warning in the beginning. Second, we're making incredible progress with how this podcast is going and how it's being sent out to other people. We have, I think, 11 countries now that are listening in, and our downloads are increasing by the day. So just do me a favor, if you like this content in any way possible, send it to your friend. I would love to do these podcasts way more than I can, and you sharing these could possibly turn this into a full-time gig. So definitely share it with your friend. If you like our content, connect with me on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever you have social media, we are there. And really, I hope you just enjoy this conversation. I think this is a great talk, doing something a little bit different. So,
All right, hello everyone. We got a special podcast today. I am here with
Sarah, owner of Foils and Fades.
and we're going to do something different. We're going to be podcasting while she cuts my hair because I'm lazy, and also she's really good. And we're going to talk about, honestly, I don't even know at this point, so we'll find out. But
Hopefully nothing too crazy.
no, not at all. So I guess let's get started with what are we doing today, haircut-wise?
Well, did you like your last haircut?
Yes, I did.
Is there anything that you want to change or tweak?
No, honestly, I thought it was good.
How's this hanging?
That's actually, it's growing out really well. Like,
Do you like the way it sits right now, or do you want it shorter?
I think it needs to be a little shorter.
Okay.
But overall, the actual like feel and cut was excellent, I think.
Okay, I feel like we should just take some weight out of it too, just because I feel like once it gets heavy, that's when it like hangs.
Yeah, of course.
But when you style it back, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just kind of like what we did last time.
Yeah, no, that's
Did you like
exactly
how
right.
short we came? Because that was when we started cutting it way shorter.
Yeah, and I really liked that a lot. It was a good change.
Okay. All right, so we'll do that.
All right. So I guess we'll ask a very simple question. Why are you a hairstylist?
I went back to school when I was 30.
Okay.
I knew that I always loved doing hair and makeup. It was one thing, like I did like homecoming hair when I was in high school, and I did it for like friends and family, and like the church that we were going to, like a lot of girls like knew I just liked it. And then unfortunately my dad told me there was no money in the industry and that regardless I'd have to go to school, and you know, it wasn't necessarily like hated upon from him, but he just wanted me to get a degree and go to college and do all that, and I hated school, but I didn't I was like a C's, low B's kind of student, and then when I went to school, or when I went to college, I only got my AA, and I was like over it. And then I had a baby when I was 22, so that changed my life for a while. And I was like, you know, I was a server and a bartender and like did all that, but when I met my husband, I worked for an attorney, and I realized that, like, you know, I wasn't like a sit-down office person, like at all. And I had had 2 back-to-back office jobs, and I loved the attorney. I loved the idea of like law and like what he was doing, and I didn't mind the job at all. But sitting down was terrible. Like, I was so bored. And when I went to hair school, like, I just realized I wanted something different. That's why I liked bartending. It was quick. It was, and I only bartended during the day, like, most of the time. But then when I met my husband, I had a baby. And so I was pregnant while I was at the law firm. And then, weirdly enough, like, we had discussed, like, maternity leave and all that. And then the lawyer sent me a letter saying that he had to replace me. And I was like, oh, okay. And this was 2 weeks after I had a baby. So I was like,
what a great guy.
Wow. And he was a really good guy. Like, genuinely, that's why I was, like, really surprised when that all happened. But it ended up that my husband's like, well, just stay home, and Tucker was his first, and I already had Landon. And Tucker kind of changed our lives, and he was like, you know what, like, if you don't have to, don't. And so I took a lot of time off with Tucker. And then I went back to bartending, and he was okay with it, and I was making money and contributing, but obviously it wasn't like a substantial amount of money. So then 2 years later, I got, I was pregnant with Zariah, and we got married, or we got married first, but then I got pregnant with Zariah, and I went into labor at the same bar that I worked at.
Oh.
So that moment, I literally called him, and he worked crazy hours, so I had to stay consistent with my schedule, which this, like, restaurant bar was willing to do. So that's kind of why I kept it. It was easy.
Yeah.
But he heavily relied on, like, my schedule for picking up the kids and doing daycare and doing all the things that, like, he was leaving at, like, 5, 6 a.m. to go to work. And then I wouldn't see him until 7, 8 o'clock at night because we didn't really have a solid schedule for him. So when I went into labor, it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was finishing my last shift at the bar, and I was like, you need to get off. And he was a driver with a CDL permit, and he couldn't just, like, drop the truck and leave. So he was almost late seeing the baby, seeing Zariah born. So it was very chaotic. Like, the labor and delivery in general for her was asinine. It was wild. Like, no drugs, no nothing.
Oh, you did it fully
chaos.
natural?
I never wanted that. I am a baby when it comes to pain. Like, give me all the drugs. But it was not possible. 45 minutes. 45 minutes, that child was like, bloop.
That was fast.
It was very fast.
I wanted to get out, man.
Yeah. And on top of all of that, my mom was at my house. No, my mom was with me at the bar because she was, like, just gathering things that people had brought to me that day for my last day and stuff. And so she had stopped by just to be there, and she had just gotten out of the hospital like 3 days prior, and she was sitting at my house, like, while I'm laboring, like, water broke and everything, and before we had left, and I realized, like, this is not good. So I called my stepmom and my dad, and I was like, hey, my mom's sitting on my bed, and I was, like, hysterical, like, not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
But this went way off tangent.
Oh, no, you're good.
I just realized you asked me a question.
Keep going.
So my mom was, like, calling her friend, like, telling her that I was in labor, but, like, massive conversation about it. And I was, like, panicking, like, packing a bag. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, get off the phone. And I was, like, super angry. And so I just realized, like, that was not the life, like, I wanted to lead. You know what I mean? And so in the hospital, we hadn't had a name for Zariah or anything like that. Like, we got it from the nurse giving me my IV, like... It was wild, but...
Wait, okay, you just can't say that and then not explain, so what do you mean?
Her name was Zariah, and it was Arabic, Zaraya, and we had, like, 16 names on a list, and nothing, like, stuck. Like, he wanted to do, like, kind of a family name, but, I mean, one of his aunts, his name was Roberta, and I was like...
No.
Like, ew, no.
You want to sound old?
Yeah, and, like, it's just, like... It just became something that, like, I wasn't sure at all. Like, we had no name. Like, I was looking at the list of these 16 names, and I was like, I don't know. And then this woman came in to give me my IV to try and get drugs into me. And so she was setting with the IV, and she goes, my name is Zariah, da-da-da-da. And I, like, looked over at her, and Jake's sitting right there. And I was like, what's your name? And she's like, Zariah. And she was like stunning, like the longest, beautiful hair, like her natural skin tone, like all the things. And I was like, you're so pretty. And I was like, can I steal your name? And I looked over at my husband and I was like, I feel like that's it. And he's like, no, I like it. I was like, cool.
So wait,
done.
he was okay with that?
Yeah. And so after Zariah was born, we didn't put her name like, you know, on paper right away. But we thought about it for like, I think the day, and like we started like researching it. And I came across this random website, and like I'm really, really big into like meanings, making sure like the meaning of the name isn't crazy or anything like that. And so with her, I looked it up in Arabic, and I was like, but I don't want to spell it the same way because it was very close to Sarah. And I was like, I don't know. But then I found, so Sarah means princess, and I literally was like, I came across this random website that had said it meant princess in Arabic, and I was like, shut up. Like, I feel like that's meant to be, you know what I mean? So it just kind of stuck, and we changed the way it's spelled. So my Zariah, Zoriah.
Okay.
And
that's
we
a
did
cool
that
way to
because
spell it, though.
my husband swore he was going to call her Zoe. Never has called her Zoe. He calls her everything but that. We call her Pi Pi, like...
But not Zoe?
No. And it became Zariah Paya, like all this other, like it made no sense, but...
No, I get that, though.
From Zoe to Pi, so...
I give my kids random names, too.
Yeah.
Because my son's named Ryder.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Occasionally, I'll call him Ryder Bo Biter.
So then he goes by Bo.
Yeah, and it's like, what are we doing here?
Seriously.
Okay, so I guess let's back up a little bit. What was it like going into labor at the bar? Like, did everyone know?
No, and that's one thing I tried. So I actually I was done with my shift, and we were just sitting outside for like just a couple of
So you weren't like working.
No, I literally just finished. So like my patrons were still there, and I went from the inside bar to the outside bar, and I was just standing there talking to a few people that had stayed to like send me off basically.
Yeah.
And so this woman was like, it said something to me and brought me a cake. Like, it was super cute. It was kind of like a mini baby shower per se. Like, I wasn't expecting it. And so that's the only reason I stayed.
Okay.
So we're at the bar, and like I had just ended my shift. I like, counted my money, did all the things. So I was like, I realized obviously I had to go to the bathroom. So I walked to the bathroom, and I don't know how deep you want to get, but I literally like went pee, and I was like, that's not pee. So I literally was like, what do I do? Like, I'm wearing shorts, you know what I mean? I'm like maternity shorts, and I'm like in the bathroom by myself, and I was like, okay, I don't have my phone. I didn't have my phone. Like, you're 9 months pregnant, you don't bring your phone with you everywhere you go? Like,
well, you also don't expect to
go into labor, right? And I wasn't due for another like 4 or 5 days, so that's why like I really just didn't think anything of it. And so then I like snuck, and I don't know how it happens, but like it like stopped basically. And so I like walked out to my mom, and I literally like sat down like right next to her and was like, hey, we gotta go. And she's like, what? And I was like, you cannot say anything, but don't tell anybody that we have to go. And she was like, and like looks over at me, and I was like, Mom,
it's one of those things.
My water broke. We have to go. And she's like, and I'm like whispering, and she's like, and she starts panicking. I was like, please don't say anything.
Like, that's not what I wanted, man.
Yes. I'm like, please don't say anything. And so she like, okay. And like, nothing's happening. She's just like panic mode. And I was like, bro, like, what are you doing? And so then.
You've done this before.
Yeah. One of the other bartenders walks up, who was very much like mama bear to me there. And like, I don't know what my mom said or what triggered her to know, but the bartender all of a sudden like was like, no way. And I was like, shut up, Mom. Like, seriously, like, one thing I ask you, what does this bartender do? This bartender walks back to the bar, starts ringing the bell, and was like, she's in labor. And I was mortified. I'm literally hysterical, like mortified. And mind you, this was at Rusty's in the Cape.
Oh, that was it?
So like, it's huge. So now I have to pack up all this stuff, walk, and one of the lady that bought me the cake and stuff was like very helpful, very concerned, like, and so I ended up living only like 3 minutes down the road. Like, I could have walked home. So I packed everything in the car, and I went to the house because I wasn't ready, you know what I mean? And I wanted to shower and all that.
Yeah.
And I like come back, and my mom's just like sitting there. I was like, what is happening? Why are you just on the phone? Like, get up, do something.
I'm about to give birth to your grandchild.
Yeah, so she ended up going home. We had to call my stepmom and get my kids in order and all of the things, but it was I've always had like really good like labor experiences, but
Oh,
That one
jealous.
was traumatic. It was traumatic only because I wasn't ready. Like,
Yeah.
she wasn't ready, kind of thing.
And you like went to the hospital and Zariah came out quickly?
So, yeah, I went to the hospital and they told me that I wasn't in labor, that I should just, like, go home because my water didn't actually break because they do this, like, test on the fluid or whatever. And I was like, I don't pee on myself. Like,
yeah.
I'm staying. And I was supposed to be induced, like, a couple days later. And I was like, like, I've never had to be induced. So I was like, nah, I'll fight it. So I just wasn't one to just leave. So I called my OB, and Jake was, like, trying to get there still. So I was, like, just trying to, like, stall.
Yeah.
And my stepmom, I don't remember how I got to her, but she drove me to the hospital. So she was just hanging out with me until my husband got there.
Mm-hmm.
And then... and my stepmom has never had a baby herself. Like, she's had, unfortunately, a few miscarriages. So, I've tried to include her in as much of, like, my pregnancies as I could.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, so they were in the room with Landon and with Jake's first, like, with Tucker being Jake's first, like, we just did it by ourselves. And so my stepmom, like, being helpful and, like, she's always been very good to me when I'm pregnant and stuff like that. So I try and get her to, be a part of it as much as she can. So she was, like, Jake comes running in, or no, they finally, like, figured out how to keep me. Like, I ended up, like, calling my OB and was like, they're trying to let me leave, and I'm telling you, I don't pee myself. Like, I was freaking out. So they called it in and said, like, let her stay if you have a room, whatever. So then they get me into, like, OB, not discharge, like, triage.
Yeah.
And this, like, nurse that I'm pretty sure she had been a nurse for, very limited amount of time. And she's, like, just registering me. Like, she's just entering me into the computer. This poor woman. I was like, hey, I have to pee. I have to go to the bathroom. And so she's like, okay, don't poop. And I was like, what? I don't have to. I just got to pee. So then she, like, I don't know. I think she was still in the room the whole time, like, while I was in the restroom. And I, like, propped the door. I was like, hey, I know you told me not to, but I have to. And she's like, don't. And so she, like, comes in the room and, like, checks me. And she literally, like, the panic on her face. And I was like, what?
So wait, it was coming out right there?
Basically. She's like, I'm going to go get help. And so she runs out of the bathroom. She's like, first she runs out of the bathroom and then comes back and she's like, let's get you back into bed. And I was contracting. And I was like, I don't think I can. And she's like, no, we're doing it.
You're doing this
like,
right now.
And I'm very much like, I have ADHD, which we'll get back to that.
ADHD.
Because that leads into my hairstylist comment, but
yes.
Going back to the beginning.
Yes.
But so my ADHD, like, I handle, like, pressure situations pretty well. And so, like, in this situation, like, I'm not crying. I'm just like, she's like, don't push. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but okay. You know what I mean? And she, like, runs out of the room. Mind you, I'm by myself. Like, there's nobody else in here. Jake's not there yet. Like, it was wild. And so they come rushing back in, and we'll also get into the second part. So
yeah.
Zariah has a brain condition, so while we were going through ultrasound and a million different, like, doctor's appointments, the hospital knew she had a brain condition being born.
Oh, geez.
But
what was it, if you don't mind me asking?
It's called... You're going to test me. It's called agenesis of the corpus callosum, which is basically her brain, a piece of her brain is missing. So it's the communication highway between both hemispheres of the brain.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And it's in the center of your skull, so in the center of your brain.
Yes.
But it correlates with, like, the rest of your central nervous system.
Yes.
And the pituitary and the heart, and, like, it tells things how to work.
And she didn't have that?
At all. And, like, honestly, 1 in 2,000 people don't have it.
Interesting.
Which is a lot, because there's billions of people. So, like, 1 in 2,000. But when we were young, like, nobody knew to...
Look for that.
So...
They probably didn't have the technology.
No. So, and we didn't get as many ultrasounds as we do now. So...
That's true.
It was something that, like, nobody knows anything about. There's a lot of different things that, like, can happen. Like, there's thousands of side effects. Like, but if one doesn't correlate with the other... There's, like, a trifecta of problems, and she only has one of the trifecta. One or two of the main trifecta, but she has 2 missing pieces. So
okay,
we'll go back to that. But so they knew that she had to have, like, the NICU in there just in case anything was wrong, even though ultrasounds all showed that, like, other than that, she's fine.
But you never know.
So they had, so when I tell you, like, once that nurse ran out, like, lack of better term, shit hit the fan. Like, everybody was, like, running. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Like, we're already here. Let's just do this. So my husband comes running in and he's like, they're delivering you. And I was like, I know. Like, I know what's going on. So then because my stepmom was like, you know, she was parking the car when all of this was happening. So she literally was like, okay, Jake's here. Like, I'm going to go. And she like hugs me and gets ready to go. And they said the NICU team comes in and there's like 8 people, like not even joking. So you have a baby doctor, a baby nurse, my midwife, and a nurse for me. So there's always 4 people, and then there's like 8 people on this NICU team. And I'm like, and they're all lined up against this wall, and I could only see this guy in glasses. And I was like, no offense, but can you fucking move? Like, I don't want you staring at me the whole time. So like, he was all I could see, and I was like, no. And so Jake entered panic mode, and Jake has ADD, so his panic mode is like,
it's bad.
It's really bad. And I felt bad for him because I could see his panic. And then he finally was like, I'm gonna go get Barb. And so, which is my stepmom. So he runs back out and runs up to my stepmom and is like, I need you to come back. So Barb comes back in, and it ended up being like really great because Barb in situations like this is very cool, calm, and collected. And I remember yelling the F word a few times. I was like, I'd turn to her and be like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, it's fine. But it was honestly the absolute worst pain I've ever been in my life. And I don't know why people do it to themselves, but kudos to those that can do it with no issues. But
yeah, that's a level of
it's wild.
I don't know if I want to say commitment.
I feel like it's absolutely commitment. It's a lot of different things. Like the willpower, like is wild to me. Like when they're like telling me like you don't have a choice, you have to. I was like, and you know, up until this point, like it was chaos. And then I'm all of a sudden like in my own head, like, oh, you have to do this. Like, no,
like, no, I don't want to.
I don't know. I have no desire. And I'm like, you can't even give me any drugs. And they were like, well, the anesthesiologist was in a different room and da-da-da. I was like, I don't care, get him in here. You know what I mean? I was like, they have time, I don't. But it like wouldn't have done anything. You know what I mean? It's just all
spiraling.
Oh my God, it was so bad. It was so bad. And I was like, I'm fine, everything's fine. I'm not fine. It's not okay. Like, and of course, like they're trying to like therapy me, but at the same time, like they're like a little bit panicky in the room just because it was like pure chaos.
Yeah.
And this is all happening.
Well, it's quick too.
I arrived at the hospital at 7:30, which I don't know. My time frame might be a little bit off because I left Rusty's at like 3:30, 4 o'clock. So I don't know how long I was at home. I don't know how my parents got Tucker. Like, I don't know how I got in my stepmom's car. You know what I mean? Like, there's a very weird time frame. But I remember them saying it's 7:30, and I was like still trying to like get into the room. So then Zariah was born at 8:50. And so that just like shows you like in that amount of time, like they were trying to send me home and I'm over here having a baby. And she was my third. So like fast deliveries are, you know, very possible with the third baby, but it was just very interesting. The whole thing was very interesting. And it ended up being like, we had a bunch of tests on Zariah, and funny enough, like I just went through this chaos, and the NICU doctor looks at Zariah. She's in the incubator or whatever that thing is in the delivery room, and she's like, what am I doing here? And she was like angry, and I was like, what do you mean? And she's like looking around at the pediatrician and the OB, and she's like, why am I here? And they're like, because look at her chart. And like she's like, she's fine, and then left. And I was like, oh my God,
it's like, guys,
what are you doing? It was pure chaos. So yeah, that was Zariah's delivery story.
Yeah, I had a weird delivery story, but not like that. Well, I mean, I did not. It was just
so fast. Yeah.
You know,
I
get it.
You were there.
Yeah.
Oh, and like one funny thing too is like with Tucker, I did have an epidural, and Jake was holding one of my legs, and you could tell like in panic mode. He's always in panic mode in these situations. And he was like, okay, take a rest, talking to me.
Yeah.
He dropped my leg, and my leg like fell to the side mid-delivery, and she's like, not you idiot. But he's like, oh. And it's funny too, because like when he gets uncomfortable, he makes stupid jokes.
Oh.
He cracks jokes, and the nurses do not find him funny. But it makes me laugh, because I'm like, this is why I married you.
So wait, were you laughing while you're in pain?
I mean, no, because I'm like, you're an idiot, you know what I mean? But I still, like, looking back, it was definitely, like, what he needed.
Yeah.
But he let my stepmom cut the cord for Zariah and everything. It was so
my gosh.
cute. Yeah, he's like, I've already done it. You could do it. So that was really cool.
What was that experience for her?
I think she always loves being a part of it. I think it's still hard. You know what I mean? Like, I imagine, like, I've never known that, you know, heartache. I've never known how to help somebody that's had, you know what I mean? Even just trying to be there for people. But, like, because she was my stepmom, we have such a past with, like, problems with my mom and stuff that, like, I felt for her, but I think I always tried hard to, like, allow her to be a part of it. And so
Yeah.
I think it always has been important to her to be a part of it no matter what. But it's also difficult because of the fact that she, you know, hasn't had any. But I think it's especially because she wasn't expecting to stay. I think she was shocked that Jake, like, frantically came and got her, but he knew I needed her calm. And the fact that she can stay calm in it is wild too. Like, she is always cold. Like, we joke that, like, if you need to know the temperature, you just touch her nose because she's always freezing. And so, like, but in the moment, like, she put her hands on my neck and, like, everything, like, the world stopped. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh my God.
She was comforting.
Absolutely. And I don't think I expected that, like, of all people. So I think that it was probably very intimate for her, and I think our relationship genuinely changed so much after in a positive way. And I think she enjoyed being a part of it. Like, it was pure chaos, and at the same time, like, super calm and collected, and having her there. So.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's just the experience of giving birth in general.
In general.
I mean, you're like, I'm dying,
Literally.
and then
I'm
you
dying,
see
I'm
your
dead.
child.
Yeah. And then there's baby, and I'm fine.
Yeah, what was that moment of, like, seeing your third kid, you said? Right?
Yeah, and I think she was so different too because I came to the conclusion that not only was she my last, but that she was, you know, in a way, a special needed child. Like, she needed more from me. She would always need more from me with this condition. And I think that kind of all, like, my stepmom would go to all my doctor's appointments and stuff with me because I needed a transcriber to, like, write everything down while I talked. But I think in that moment, like, when they put the baby on your chest, like, when I tell you, like, life-changing isn't even, like, the description, because you don't even know what they look like. You don't even know, like, what, you know. Yes, you can look at the ultrasound 500 different ways and, like, picture, but it's never what you picture. You see them for the very first time, and it's, like, mind-blowing.
Even those 3D ultrasounds, it's not the same.
It's not the same. Did she look exactly like her 3D ultrasound? Absolutely. Like, I did a side-by-side exactly like it. But it was literally like, you know, going back to the world stopping. Like, that's what it feels like, is, like, they put her in your arms. And, like, for her, that experience was different because they literally, like, put her in my arms for, like, 2.5 seconds and then took her to the incubator thing. And I'm very much, like, into, like, letting our bodies do the work. So, you know, like, leaving the cord on and stuff like that. So they allowed it for, like, that couple of seconds. And I believe in, you know, like, as soon as she said there's nothing wrong, I was like, give her back. And they were like, we want to weigh her. I was like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I don't care how much she weighs. Like, ultimately, who cares? Like, I want the baby.
She's alive.
Yeah. And so I think that part was different for me because I knew she was my last, and I kind of just, like, took it all in. Like, soaking it in is very hard when there's a lot going on, but, like, somehow your brain kind of just, like, it allowed me to shut down and be in that moment, and kind of, like bliss is a good way of talking about it, you know what I mean? But, like, it's crazy to me. It's crazy that our bodies, like, especially, you know, obviously women's bodies, like, can
do all that.
Yeah, and, like, I've always been, especially during pregnancy, like, I don't feel like, unless there's anything wrong, like, I don't feel like you absolutely, like, need to go to the doctor all the time. Like, I feel like our bodies are 100% doing the job that they do. But, you know, it explains a lot as to why there were so many complications, like, back in the day. You know what I mean? Because of medicine growing and everything like that. But there's a lot that goes into allowing your body to care for the baby it's made. Like, you can't tell me that my body just like made this child and can't handle delivery without, you know, drugs and without the chaos of, you know, like, it knows what it's doing. So
Yeah.
I kind of like to trust it, but at the same time, like, I'm very much a baby when it comes to pain, so I'm like, give me all the drugs, but do it naturally. I need to take my sweater off.
No,
I'm sweaty.
By the way, for those people that are not in Florida, it's freezing. It's 50 outside.
It was 46. Are you sure it's 50?
I mean, I don't know at this
It's
point.
freezing.
Yesterday, it hit I think it was like 39.
I was going to say, I think it hit 30 for sure.
It's snowing in North Florida.
That's wild.
I know.
It's like not even just snowing. Like, there's a lot of places that are getting it.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. When everyone's like, oh man, Florida has gotten past it, like they have great weather, and it doesn't feel great to us.
No, it's rainy. It's rainy and it's cold. Like, and it's like weirdly like misty rain. Like, why not just freaking rain and be done with it?
It's mist rain and windy too, and so it just goes right through you.
My feet are still cold. Like,
so like the first night, I didn't realize it was gonna be that cold, and when it's just me at my house, I'll open up the windows and see how cold it gets.
Yeah.
I woke up and it was 59.
Oh my gosh, that's too cold.
Yeah, that wasn't the best idea I've ever had, but you know what? I woke up good.
You woke up and you were fine, and then you were sick, so here we are.
Yeah, no, I had a hoodie on and sweatpants underneath 2 blankets, and I'm like, you know, shaking at night, but yeah.
Well, I normally to regulate the temperature in here, like, we have to open up the sliding glass doors, because once people start blow drying and everything, like, it gets wild. So
I assume, like, with all the, you know, equipment that you have in here, and it's a small room, it gets kind of hot in here.
Yeah, but I had them. So when I first moved in here, they the event, it was frigid. Like, it was, I would literally had to wear like sweaters. My clients had to wear sweaters under the cape. Like, it was bad. But they weren't processing, like, my bleached clients, like my lighting clients weren't getting light enough. And it was because it was so cold. Like, your body temperature really helps the lightener process.
Really?
Heat. Because your heat comes from your head.
Oh.
So as it's processing, it's heating up the foil, which keeps the lightener lightening.
You know, this actually transitions to a great conversation.
I never even told you why I got into hair, but go ahead.
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
But obviously, you know, you've cut my hair for a while, right?
Yeah,
like months?
I mean, I think it's almost been a year.
Yeah. And one thing I appreciate about you is I can, like, say, hey, I want to go for this hairstyle. And you can tell me it would look terrible in your head, or it'll look great.
We call that brutal honesty, which is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. So how long you been doing hair?
I'm in my 4th year.
Okay. So what is the easiest thing about hair, and what is the hardest thing about hair?
Easy is that for the fact that most of it is consistent, especially with men. Like, I do this same haircut, this same, like, 2 on the sides to a 0 in the back, like, on, I would say, 85% of my men. Or, like, a decent, like, taper, you know, like, with long hair, you can do it with scissors. Like, it's consistent in haircuts. There's a couple, like, here and there that you're like this new, like, middle school mushroom what is it, ice cream scoop. Like,
yeah.
I literally, my son right now is 13 and has this weird, like, style, but it's their style, it's not the haircut. So once you can get how they're wearing their hair down to how to cut it the way they wear it, like, that's a lot easier. But consistency is, like, the trends, yes, change, but the basics is always going to be the basics.
Okay.
So fundamentally, like, the haircuts are all consistent.
Interesting.
The hardest thing is meeting people's unrealistic expectations.
Okay, explain that.
You can have a photo off Instagram, but your hair doesn't do that.
Okay.
Color, same thing. Like, so just like I said, like, it wouldn't work for you. So, like, say you wanted, you know, like, just with your hairline alone, like, you're just, you know, you have a good hairline, but it widow's peaks right here. So, like, you want it all short here and then just, like, a weird funky thing right here, and be like, that's gonna look weird because it's gonna come down like that weird, like, Elvis thing, but just that, you know what I mean? So I was like, so that wouldn't work for you. If you liked it, I would do it. Whatever, to each their own. But when people come in and they have these pictures, and I'm like, first of all, it's not me, it's you, because that's you. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can do. But if it doesn't work for you, and explaining that to people, like, a lot of people don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like, when do you want to hear no? You know what I mean? Like, you go into your hair appointment and you're like, I have my heart set on this, but it just isn't something that you can do on a daily basis. It doesn't, you know, so you have to then, like, not talk them out of what they wanted, but, like, try and be realistic. And I'm very realistic to where I'm like, just no. And instead of, I'm like, wait, back it up. I'm sorry. Let me tell you what we can and cannot do. So I try and overly explain because I'd rather you understand why not, rather than being like, she just said no. You know what I mean? Because then if you understand your head shape, if you understand, like, the way, you know, the hair is supposed to lay or whatever, like, everybody's head is different, and that's another hard thing is, you know, tending the same thing on multiple people with 18 different head shapes. But it's, you know, they're unrealistic expectations of what we are actually capable of doing, how their hair lifts with lightener, how their hair deposits color. Like, every single person on this planet's hair strand is totally different. So, like, you and I both have thin hair strands, but we have a lot of them. So it appears like you do have thicker hair probably than I do, but, like, it looks like we got a lot of hair. Well, in reality, my ponytail's like this big. You know what I mean? Like, so it, like, it just depends on what your hair is capable of doing. Whether or not, like, you're going to be able to achieve it. Like, you get girls in here with dark, black, thick, coarse hair that want to be ice blonde. Like, sorry, it's going to be orange.
Doesn't always work,
Yeah, and, like, them not understanding color theory, and then the people that do understand color theory but don't understand why their hair doesn't process like that. You know what I mean? The medications that they take, like, it's wild, all of the circumstances that we have to go through to get you to where you want to be. You know what I mean? But I think that that's where honesty has to come into play. Like,
it's rare too. Not a lot of places will do that.
And more than that, like, I don't understand the hairstylists that aren't honest. Like, you're lying to yourself that you can do this because the hair's going to tell you everything it's not going to do. You know, and you got to believe it. You got to, you know, believe what you see with your own two eyes. Like, it's going to be orange. You know color theory. Like, why would you commit to that? And then I'm very good at under promising and over delivering.
That's a skill. That is a big skill.
It's a skill, but it's terrible because then everybody expects that same result every time. And so I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. But I love doing really good hair, and I'm always going to put my all into it no matter what. Even if it's like, you know, they said, oh, I want to be all over blonde. And I was like, that's probably going to take 2 or 3 sessions. And then I give them all over blonde because I know what I'm capable of. But then they're like, they want to be all over blonde every single time. And I'm like, don't have time today. You know, like... So one thing I've learned, you know, you've heard the phrase, like, the customer is always right in the service industry. And it's such a weird balance because I feel like that I now disagree.
Yeah, I feel like it's, like, partially true to some extent.
Absolutely. But it's like, it's not even saying customer's always right. It's more so the fact that, like, first of all, we're all human. And yes, now in the service industry, even as a bartender, as a server, like, that industry is, in a sense, yes and no. Like, I can't help your taste palette. If something tastes bad to you, I'd feel bad for you. But if you're a jerk about it, you're not right. If it just doesn't taste bad and you want to take your plate back or it's undercooked or whatever, like, I'm going to do everything in my power. The second you give me an attitude about something, like, I lose interest in doing what you want me to do for you.
So how do you balance the customer's always right with telling them the truth?
I don't.
Okay, explain.
Because to me, it's not about you, whether or not you're right. It's about what is, you know, like, what is the hair going to do? What is the process? Do I have time for it?
It's about the facts.
It's about the facts. And, like, if you can't understand the facts, I'm not doing it. Because if I can't do it, I'm not going to tell you I can do it. And then you're pissed at me and you blow me up on social media and then my career's done. You know what I mean? Like, and it's something so stupid that, like, I've only had there's a couple clients out there that, like, it's just their personality. Nobody's ever gonna make them happy. So they've jumped from hairstylist to hairstylist to hairstylist. What's good in the hair industry now is hairstylists being able to really, like, hone in on what they're capable of and saying, like, ma'am, like, I might not be the hairstylist for you. Like, unfortunately, like, I'm not...
Almost like a specialty?
Yeah, like... But it's more so, like, being able to be honest with yourself that, like, this person, like, if you were to come to me and, like, have the same problem over and over again and you leave and say, oh, you fixed it, and then the next time it's still that same problem, like, it's not me, it's you. You know what I mean? You can't unsee what you don't like, and I can't help what you see in the mirror.
Yeah.
So I've had a client, a woman that like wasn't my client initially. It was my old salon's client, and she was just never content. And then finally, like, and you can ask all the questions. I'm very good at like trying to ask, like, you know, that,
get an understanding.
Yeah, and like there's TikToks and Instagram posts and stuff like that like a lot of hairstylists that are good communicators like say, okay, ask this and then that and then this and then that. Like, you know what I mean? Is this something that like you can fix, or is it something that they can't?
So it's almost like a sales script in a sense.
Kind of, yeah. Because like once you get to one part with it, like, you know, talking about your hair in the front, like you like the way it's laying and you're content with it. But to me, I know that 4 weeks down the road, this is going to be literally like hanging.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what is that?
And then I'll be like Vampire Diaries.
Yeah, literally. And you're going to be like, I don't know what's happening. And I knew this whole time that it was going to do that. You know what I mean? So it's more so like sharing, like this woman ended up not liking the color of her gray hair growing out of her head. It wasn't what I was doing. It was the fact that she's never going to like her hair because she doesn't like what's growing out of her head. And it got to the point where I can't change that.
I also think like deep inside that is not even just she doesn't like what's coming out of her head, but also it's a reminder that she's like getting old.
Older.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing for anyone to grasp.
But it absolutely. So like the heart of it, like I'm very like respectful and passionate, and I love people genuinely, but like it gets to a point where like it's exhausting. So every time this woman would be on my book or like the week of, I'm like exhausted already because I know that it's coming.
Like your body is almost reacting ahead of time.
Yeah, and I know that it's like anxiety ridden, and I know that like, you know, like I'm gonna pop a freaking Buspirone because I'm like, oh, I know she's coming in. And it's not that like I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be in this like weird place just because you don't like the hair that's growing out of your head. That's not my fault. So it got to a point where I was just like, listen, like, she's like, well, you know, so-and-so did it. And I was like, well, maybe you should go and see so-and-so. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm just not the person for you. And that's okay. Like, but it's also, you know, then I walk away from it and I'm like, I can't believe I couldn't fix it. So then I wear that. You know what I mean? So there's a really big balance that is really hard to find in this industry because being hairstylists, most of us are people pleasers. Most of us are recovering people pleasers because I can only do so much. You know, like, that applies to anything in my life, but it's hard. It's really hard.
How do you, so I know you're a driven person. You want to do the best that you can. How do you avoid being overly critical about your work? I feel like after a while it'd be very difficult, right?
So my old boss was training me, and she said, you can't unsee it. So talking about me. So like, I know like there's certain things in your haircut, like there's a weird shadow right here. That could
really?
That could be a divot in your head. That could be, you know, but like and turn it a little bit more. So like, can you see it tiny, tiny, tiny?
Yeah.
It's like barely a shadow.
Yeah, but it's
Would
there.
you notice that on a regular basis?
No.
But I see it, and so like I'm going to keep attacking it. But if I can't fix it, she's like, you're the only one that can see that. Like, but I'll sit in church. Church is like the worst place for me. I love going, but I sit there and I analyze everybody. I'm like, I can help her. You know what I mean? And in my heart of hearts, like, I just want to be like, can I just fix it, please? You know what I mean? Knowing that I can help them. But then it's a downfall too, because like I'm critiquing somebody else's work, like unintentionally.
Yeah.
But I can see it.
You can't just be present.
Right. And so, but that's now everywhere. Like, which, you know, she's like, you're the only one that can see it. And more than that, like, be confident in what you just did. Like, the rest of it looks great. Let it go.
Yeah.
And I have a problem letting go. Like, and it's not that I'm trying to be in control, but I'm like, I can probably fix it.
Well, and you also have confidence in your skills. I mean, I get that too.
That just came. That just happened.
Because,
but it's mostly knowing your self-worth.
Well, that's it, you know. As a public speaker, so when I first got into, like, speaking in front of crowds, I was like, oh, man, I really like this, but I don't really know how I'm doing it, and I thought I was doing a good job, and, oh, no, I sucked. But now that I've had a decent amount of years of experience, it's hard for me to listen to subpar public speaking that thinks that they're good. And, you know, part of that's also, like, it's like a check to stay humble.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, I could compare myself to this guy and think, oh man, I'm better than him.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, like, I don't know where that guy's coming from. I don't know where he's at. He could be having a bad day, and that's why he's not performing well. So how can I be more humble? So I guess with all of that, what do you do to stay confident in hair, but also keep being in a place where you're learning and humble?
So I believe in continuing education, so that's first. But I'm also a perfectionist, so there's certain parts, like, for instance, if I know a certain client has a lot of hair, or I know that I've had a hard time, like, in the past, like, tweaking it, or, you know what I mean, like, getting to the place, I'll extend their time, so I'm not stressing over how much time I have. I'm not, you know what I mean, like, I tweak everything a little bit. But I think always being willing to learn, like, I know what I'm capable of and I know what I'm worth. So if I'm not educating myself in, like, I'll stay up at night and watch, you know, TikTok of barbers, like, just going over and going over and going over. And I'm like, how is their system so, like, in there? You know what I mean? Like, you have it down to repetition. Like, you know what blade's coming next. Like, where I am, you know, slower because I'm literally perfecting it, because I can't let you walk away knowing that I left that little blip that you're not going to see.
Yeah, exactly.
So it has, and it, like, that part's hard, but, like, being able to turn back and be like, I did that. You know what I mean? Like, that's huge for me.
So I guess my next question would be, because I've been curious about this for my entire life. What's the difference between a hairstylist and a barber?
A barber, the licensing. So a barber.
Oh, there's different licensing.
I would have to go back to school. So I'm a cosmetologist. I can do hair, skin, and nails.
Okay.
But a barber has a barber license that can shave with a straight razor. And I'm almost positive that's the only thing. Because we learn the same thing. We learn men's cuts. We learn how to, you know, manipulate hair with clippers and all of that. And I'm almost positive the only difference in the licensing is straight razor, because you can cut somebody pretty decently. But you can do that with scissors.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure. The licensing is definitely different. But if I were to go back to school for barber, I would have to take at least 8 to 10 months.
8 to 10 months just to, I mean, okay, no offense to barbers.
Right.
Like, to cut with a straight razor?
Because they're going to teach you all these blending things that I've already been taught, but they don't know. Like, I wish that I can pay money and just take one day of class, show them, and if I needed more, you know what I mean? Like, I wish there was a different evaluation to it, because I wish I could show what I'm capable of doing, and then, hey, right, you know, quality people of board of cosmetology be like, okay, you can handle this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wish there was a better way, because I can't. What my old boss did was she was already a hairstylist, also bartending, and went back to barber school.
Oh my gosh.
And, like, to go back, like, that's months. That's months of late nights. Like, I can't do that with 3 kids.
Do you get, like, a benefit of having all the degrees, I guess?
Yes, because certifications, like, I'd probably have more of a clientele, like, a bigger, I could probably charge more, you know what I mean? Like, there are small benefits. I mean, education. Yeah. I know more than, you know, the average hairstylist, but I learned in an environment that I could use a straight razor in this salon, because my owner of the salon was licensed and insured and all the things. So I was a W-2 employee, so I could straight razor there. I cannot straight razor here. Because
you're your own person.
Because I'm, you know, my business, I don't have that license, so
okay.
I don't.
That makes sense. So I guess now that we went on that long tangent, let's go back to you getting and being a solo entrepreneur as a hairstylist. What was that process like? How did you find the place to stay? How have you found clientele? Like, give me all the deets. I want to know everything.
So I started off at a salon owned by a hairstylist, and she was very good at what she did. She was a great teacher. She taught me a lot of things, and I set a goal for myself when I started there that in 3 to 5 years I wanted to grow. I wanted to be bigger. I wanted to potentially, you know, own my own place, or, you know, go, you know, I even branched out and was like, I'll start another one for you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm always willing to look into growth. Like, believe highly in doing what's best for you at that time and in that moment. And I started seeing other hairstylists in that salon change, and they were looking into suites themselves, and this kind of just fell into my lap. Like, I didn't want to be by myself. I really like camaraderie. I feel like hospitable, and I feel like I love being around people, quality people.
Yeah.
So I never really like wanted to be in a solo salon.
Okay.
But this was a step in what I think is the right direction for me and my family. And to be bigger, you gotta step out and pray that it works. And I mean, that was kind of what it was. Like, I didn't do this intentionally, 100%. Like, 100% no intentions of doing it. A friend of mine had reached out to me on Facebook who's been a stylist for a very long time, and she's like, hey, I don't know if you're interested, but the salon suite next to me is open, and this was at a different location. And I was like, oh, and she's like, I think you'll really like it here. And she was very encouraging for me to go to school and, like, you know, do my thing. And so I took that and I was like, well, I mean, let's talk about it. Let's, you know, pick my husband's brain and see what happens. And he was in transition of changing his career. And he was in school at the time, and
so you're figuring this out at the same time that he's trying to transition everything.
And he hadn't started his new job yet. He was still in school.
Okay.
So his school wasn't like a long time, but it was, you know, like we were already knee deep in, like, he has to do this. He's already this far.
Yeah.
So I looked at him and was like, hey, this is what happened. He's like, go look at it. And I was like, okay.
Hey.
So I set an appointment. Literally, that's what I do. I'm like, hey, do you love me today? If not, we're not talking about it. So he's always been very supportive. Like, even going back to hair school, like, that was the major point of asking about why I became a hairstylist. So went into labor, all the things. So after I knew that I was going to stay a stay-at-home mom for at least a year. I don't know what gave me that. I'm very big on, like, being present in my baby's life. I'm very big on...
Which is rare these days.
Yeah, I'm very big on the connection, breastfeeding, like, all of that.
Yeah.
And he knew that, and so he's like, I don't care how long you take. Like, obviously, like, we have struggled through you not having a job for the last, you know, however long. He's like, but I don't want you ever to go into labor again or have anything at a bar. Like, you need to get a big girl job. Literally his verb, his description. And I was like, what is that? And so, like, he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. You know what I mean? And I was like, what does this mean? But I knew, like, based on the last time, that the office job just was not for me.
Yeah.
And at that time, he had a different job. He was the truck driver. So he's like, well, what about, like, maybe sales, or, like, maybe I'll talk to, and you can work it here. You know what I mean? And I just was like, like, I don't want to, you know what I mean? And so just a lot of things were changing in our lives, and that was 5 years ago. So he finally just said, well, why don't you just go back to hair school, or go to hair school? And I was like, I can't afford it. Like, we can't afford it. Like, and so we started looking into that, and then he's like, well, you haven't had a job, so it's not like anything new, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh, well then, so when Zariah turned 1.5, I went back to hair school, and I was 30, and I loved every second of it. And then I got COVID halfway through. Like, I was sick for an entire month. It was awful, but I also got ADHD out of it, so, like, really bad.
COVID gave you ADHD.
Well, weirdly enough,
we actually did.
Any underlying, like, things that you have, like, dormant,
just comes out more.
COVID, like, literally just revamps it and is, like, with a vengeance.
That's why I'm handsome. So COVID gave me more handsomeness.
Absolutely. It was a glow up for you.
Definitely.
I didn't have that.
I'll tell you what.
I can't think. I couldn't eat. It was awful. But it got to the point where, like, COVID, the brain fog, it never went away. And I was like, I would go to school and, like, mind you, I'm very big on, like, if you're capable of doing something like school, hair school is very different than regular school, but you still have to study. You still have to, you know, the first 10 weeks are, like, book work. Yeah. But I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. So I get all A's. I do, 110%. Like, I'm not here to lose, basically. I'm very competitive.
Yeah.
But I was sick for an entire month, so they had to extend my graduation, which was disheartening. It was terrible. But it just got so bad to the doctors. They were like, why? I'm like, I just can't think straight. Like, I started, like, seeing a drop in my grades, and, like, it was very, like, minimal. But, like, my teachers were like, hey, do you need help? Like, I couldn't stand for, like, more than, I'm not even joking, like, 6 minutes. And at the time, I was 30. Like, 30, I think I was 30 or 31.
Yeah, you're not 90.
No, and I was like, I had to bring in a finger, what is that, odometer? The one that, your oxygen.
Oh, jeez.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The finger thing. I had to, like, it was in my
Inhaler?
pocket. No, I had an inhaler too, but I had, like, all of these, like, medical things in my pocket at hair school because I had to, like, watch, like, how much oxygen was getting into my lungs. Like, it was, like, bad. But I, like, had all the symptoms. The only thing I didn't lose was my taste and smell.
Which, let's be honest, probably the best thing to
Yeah,
not lose.
Seriously. But, like, I went through the depression because I couldn't see my family. Like, it was bad. Like, I was sick for a solid month, and every day the symptoms changed, and it was really bad. But then the brain fog, I literally was like, I just don't like the fact that I can't think straight. So she ended up sending me to a psychiatrist. I'm like, I'm gonna get it.
Psychologist,
the same thing.
Astrophysicist.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, he just, like, was like, no, you have ADHD. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. So once I got that, like, they put me on a regimen and put me on meds. And after finding the right meds, which is a terrible thing to do.
It's annoying.
It's so annoying. I was good. I was good for a solid, like, once Adderall was really helping. I was on very low doses, but, like, it's weird. It was, like, never seemed like enough. But at the same time, like, I was losing weight because I wasn't eating. And so I stopped taking it, like, a year ago because I like to be in control of myself. And I was like, if I can cope with the fact that, like, now it's an ongoing thing, like, oh, that's just my ADHD, like, it's strong today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've learned to kind of live with it rather than, and, like, it's so real. Like, it's not an excuse.
It's not a cop-out.
No. And, like, to be able to, like TikTok has such great things. Like, I'd watch a video and I'm like, and that's what helped me explain myself to the doctors. This woman came on and she was like, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? And it was literally every single thing that I was genuinely feeling. And I was so overwhelmed because the doctors were just not getting it. But this woman explained it so differently that I'm like, this is exactly what it is. Like, this is how I feel. And so it, stemmed to me researching it in a different way and just figuring out that, like, no, like, this ADHD is real and it is, something that's affecting my daily life. And so I got through hair school and I stopped taking meds because I just don't believe in it. My ADHD is so strong I can't even remember taking my medication every day. And then when I would take it, it would hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'm like, trying to cut hair and your hands like
shaking,
like,
yeah.
And I literally would, like, hold my scissors and I'm, like, cutting hair and I'm holding scissors and I'm, like, shaking and I'm like, I swear I'm not on crack. Like, it's my ADHD. It's like
the
my
people that
hitting.
you're cutting hair for, they're probably like,
yeah, they're, like, watching my hand, like, tremor, and, like, I couldn't control, like, I felt awful all the time. And I was like, is this really worth, like, me, taking? And
getting a little bit more focus.
Right. And so, and even the focus, like, I loved that I was achieving my house goals and I was able to, like, hold myself together a majority of the time while taking the medication. But, like, the side effects just weren't worth it for me. Like, as a hairstylist, I don't have a ton of time to eat. And yes, you can schedule it. Yes, you can do all the things. But, like, it's just known in the industry. Like, it doesn't always work out. Like, if, I have back-to-back haircuts, like, unless my husband's in here, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing and eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, unless it's somebody that, like, I feel like as much as you would be like, no, it's fine. What if, like, you actually genuinely don't care, but it's still your time that you're paying for.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, like, I personally wouldn't have an issue, but it would be weird if you're just like, hold on a second, and then you just start eating a sandwich.
Can you imagine?
Are you eating a sandwich?
And most of the time, like, out of respect for everybody, like, if I was shaky, which could happen, like, I'd be like, hey, let me just stuff my face for a minute. You know what I mean? And I would take 3 bites and choke it down just to be able to get back into it. But I feel like time is money for everyone. And your time is just as valuable as mine. And, I'm not going to waste my time doing stupid things like eating.
So, obviously, you've experienced prescribed Adderall. I gotta clarify that, prescribed. And other medications to help. I've noticed that people are really into like, oh yeah, definitely take medications, or they're like holistic and believe medications are bad.
I wish there was a middle ground.
What's your opinion on that?
So
has being medicated changed that opinion?
Yes. So I took Adderall for, I would say, like a year and a half. And in that year and a half, we had to change it probably 7 times. Like the dose, the amount, like all of it. So
how could you know that you had to change it? Was it they were saying that, or you just felt off?
No, I felt off. And the way, like with Adderall, like it feels like, okay, I know I took it. Like you could have extended release or regular, and the regular would punch you in the face. Like it literally was like all of a sudden. And the extended release, like I could tell when it hit, because I literally was like, I'd start to shake. I'd start to feel like I hadn't eaten in hours, or I was like dehydrated, or it was just like, I knew that, that this wasn't working. So then I actually switched medications and went from Adderall to Vyvanse. And Vyvanse was meant more for my brain rather than
your body.
My body, which I loved. And I'm not opposed to taking Vyvanse. I think it definitely helped. But again, I could never remember to take it. So what was the point?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I felt like, okay, maybe if I was back in school and I needed to study and stuff like that, like, it would be different. But, like, 10 out of 10 recommended Vyvanse to a lot of people. But it wasn't right for me. And I was like, if I'm going to forget all the time, what's the point in going back? And then, like, I ended up, my doctor left the practice, and we changed insurances since my husband's job changed. So I just was like, whatever. Like, I'm not doing this all over again. You know what I mean? So holistically, there are things that you can take, and I know that. But again, I'd have to take them every day.
Yeah, and then try them out.
And like...
It's not instantaneous. It takes a while.
Yeah, a while. And I know that I'd have to be diligent, when in reality, I can just deal with it. Like, do I think medication is necessary for people that need things? Yes. Like, I am not opposed to medicine. I think medicine's great in its proper use. But it sucks that, the pharmaceutical industry is cutthroat. And, like, learning that, like, there's doctors out there now on TikTok and these platforms that are, like, hospitals and, these doctors are killing you because the insurance companies are, like, not prescribing things because they're not making money. Like, that's awful. The world we live in is awful when it comes to that.
Yeah.
It's so sad to me that, like, if I had to give my daughter... Okay, well... We'll get knee deep in this and might cry, but my daughter should be taking medication for the fact that, and this is, I don't know if I told you, but she's 5, and back in September, so not only does she have a brain condition, but she has like 7 specialists now besides a regular pediatrician. And from this brain condition, like I said before, like it can stem into different things. So she has a pituitary doctor, so an endocrinologist. She had a heart doctor, but they knew that the cardiologist was like, she's never going to have issues, and if she does down the road, then we can go back to this.
Yeah.
So she has a neurologist, and she has a I can't remember them all. Like a lot of behavioral ones, a lot like a psychologist, and like the list goes on. But it got to the point where she had a pediatric surgeon, a oncologist, and there was like 2 more. She developed a cyst in her ovaries that produced estrogen. That's what we were told. And she was having stomach issues. She was having just like outbursts, like fits of rage and like crying. And I was like, there's got to be more to this. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And so I don't remember what sparked. I do remember. So November of, what year are we in? November of 2023.
Okay, so 2 years ago.
She got, well, like a year and a half ago. Yeah, you know what I mean.
It all adds up.
Yeah. So she started what I saw as developing breast buds. And mind you, she's 5. So I was like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? So, like, I didn't say anything to my husband at first because I was like, maybe I'm seeing things. So I watched her for a week and I was like, something's got to give. Like, this just doesn't seem right. And so she ended up, like, in that week, like, it just kept getting bigger and kept getting bigger. And I was like, what is happening? So I called her pituitary doctor, and like at this point, I had said something to my husband, and I was like, "Something's not right. Like we gotta look into this." So, did you tell me last time you liked a hairline?
Whatever you think is best.
Well, because I think I went to a 0 last time, and you didn't like it.
In the back?
Yeah.
I think I
Can I just do a skin fade?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because I already went there.
No, I trust you.
Okay, so I was like, ah!
This is actually how our haircuts go.
Every
she
time.
asks me a question, I'm like, I don't know, whatever looks best.
So she ended up producing breast buds and pubic hair. And in a 5-year-old, I was like, oh. So I immediately called her endocrinologist, who was only involved with us because of her brain condition. So, like, we had a rapport with her. We'd seen her since Zariah was 3 months old. Like, she knew Zariah's case.
Yeah.
So this was very different from what had been going on. And so she, like, got her in the next day, and my husband actually had to take her because I couldn't get out of work, and the lady was like, yep, she's in precocious puberty, like, this happens, blah, blah, blah. We can stop it with this implant, this medication, this, that, and the other. And I was like, what? And so I cried a lot.
Rightfully so.
But weirdly enough, like, this is apparently normal.
Really?
In 6 to 9-year-old girls, they get their period very early, and it's just something happens. So, like, there's a lot of medications out there that, you know, like birth control, can stop the cycle, but it's still you have to continue the medication because it's still going to happen if you don't. So it would have been something that, like, changed her life immensely, but she could have still gotten a cycle and all of that. So I don't remember what the tests were that we were doing, but we ended up doing testing that figured out that she wasn't actually in precocious puberty. She had a cyst on her ovary that was producing estrogen.
Okay.
So the development changed the medication need and the implant need and all that. So then rocked our world differently. So I was like, okay, what do we do from here? She's like, we just have to watch it, pay attention to it, see if we need to take it out, remove it, whatever. So then they've never seen, going back.
Yeah.
She as in the endocrinologist knew that now that it's not precocious puberty, this is not in her wheelhouse. So she doesn't deal with exterior, like, things outside of the pituitary central nervous system. So knowing that it's a cyst on her ovary that's producing estrogen, it now becomes there's a word for it, can't think. Basically outside the central nervous system. So that's when the surgeon got involved. And the surgeon was like, hey, like, this is now, you know, I'm the head honcho. I'm going to, you know, tell you whether or not we're going to do this or not.
Yeah. So
the endocrinologist stayed with us through this whole experience, which she's amazing. 10 out of 10 recommend her. She's amazing. So we figured out that the cyst was, you know, there, and they'd never seen this before, so they sent us to endocrinology. They sent us to, like, all kinds of things, thinking that, like, this is like the chicken before the egg, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So people that have, like, endometriosis or have already had their cycle as a adolescent could get cysts on their ovaries, no problem. But she's 5. How did this happen? And all of her testing for her pituitary was good and potentially, like, perfect. So the pituitary doctor had no idea what was going on, and so we started, like, looking into it a little bit better. Sarah, God is going terrible. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, you're doing great.
So I don't know, like there was a lot going on all at once, and it was just like crazy. And so we did all this testing, and the surgeon just wanted to continue watching it because they couldn't tell if it was cancerous until it was out of her body anyway. So let's just watch it. So like every couple of weeks we were going for ultrasounds, every couple of weeks we were going for blood work, and her blood work kept fluctuating, like, you know, as if she was in a cycle. And so as a mom, I'm like, well, how long can this cycle go on until she gets a period? And the endocrinologist is like, not very long. Like, we shouldn't let this do this. You know what I mean? Like, we should go in, we should take it out. Obviously, that means surgery. So we were watching it, and the surgeon just kept saying, well, it's not really, like, growing very big, and it's not, like, we're just, like, watching it. And I was like, how do you know? Like,
That's not the question.
You know, we've had 4 different, we ended up, so because of her brain condition, we were able to do a MRI, because an MRI and a CT after her ultrasounds because of her brain. So the neurologist, somehow we had an appointment in between, and he's like, well, it's been like 3 years since we've seen her brain, so why don't we do an MRI? And I was like, okay. So I called the endocrinologist, and I was like, hey, we're going to do an MRI. Can we just do it over her whole body? Since we're already, like, you have to sedate
We're already there.
her. Yeah, we have to sedate her. I'm like, we're already there. Let's just do it. And she's like, that's a great idea. So I ended up, like, let's do this. Let's, you know, like, figure out how to move forward. And so we got that, and it read differently than everything else. So I was like, so I knew a lot of people in the field of radiology, and I touched base with one of the radiologists that was actually a client at the salon at the time. And I was like, hey, what do you suggest I do? Like, I was like, is it possible to have all of the images that we've ever taken looked at just for the cyst, not for anything else? And he was like, absolutely, like, you do a compare and contrast kind of thing. And I was like, okay. I was like, is this something you do? He's like, I can, but it's better to do it, like, through, like, Radiology Regional or whatever.
Yeah.
So I texted a friend of mine that worked at Radiology Regional and was like, how do I do this? And she's like, I'll do it for you. So she connected the dots for the doctors that needed to look at it, and we had an order to, like, have it reviewed by the same person.
Yeah.
So he reviewed 3 of the images that we had over the year, and he was like, it's growing, but this one says this much, this one says this much. And so they thought the cyst was only 3 centimeters. So, like a golf ball.
Yeah.
They didn't think, centimeters? That's not the, whatever.
Inches?
Millimeters? I don't know.
Millimeters?
No, it was like, they thought it was this big.
That would be a centimeter.
So they thought it was this big. And so they were just like, whatever about it. Even though she was waking up in the middle of the night throwing up, even though, like, randomly, like, I'd have to keep her from school because she would just throw up. And, like, her stomach hurt all the time. She would literally, like, it was awful. Like, looking back now, like, I feel so bad for what she had to endure because they just didn't want to.
Yeah.
Like, that was hard as a parent. And so, you know, hindsight, I wish I knew sooner. I wish I would have pushed a little harder, you know what I mean? But, like, it's medicine and they have to take their precautions. But the surgeon didn't want to do surgery, so we waited it out. And I was like, but it's growing. Like, something's happening. Like, there's not a need. Why is it growing? Why is the estrogen and, you know, like, what's happening? So my birthday, in the midst of looking at different salon stuff, which we have to go back to.
We're going all over the place.
Yeah, so my birthday weekend, my birthday's in September, and that's when I was, like, gonna go look at, like, I was looking at this salon, I looked at a different one, I was looking at different spaces just randomly, and on September 18th, Zariah got a menstrual cycle.
Oh, wow.
And she was 5, and I cried my eyes out, bawled my eyes out, and she was, like, so strong. Like, it was wild that my baby was just, like, Mom,
taking
like,
it well.
Yeah, and she's like, come wipe me. And I was like, did you poop? And she's like, no. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I bawled my eyes out. It was terrible. But my boys were there, and so I had to call my parents to come get them and take them to school because Jake was working at the time. And he wasn't working. He was in the academy. And so it was, like, something that he couldn't leave. And so I literally blew his phone up and I was like, I don't know who to contact, but like, this is what's happening. And so like, he knew I would handle it. So though it was traumatizing for me at the time, like, I'm glad I could handle it. You know what I mean? Because I don't think he would have handled it that great. You know what I mean?
Well,
just being a dad and like not knowing, like,
you know what it's like.
Absolutely. But I also never knew I'd have to teach my 5-year-old how to change a pad. Like, that was definitely like crazy. So not only was I dealing with like the doctor that didn't want to do the surgery still, he wouldn't call me back. Like, I ended up calling her pediatrician and was like, I need help. Like, I need somebody to connect the dots to help me figure out how to get through this with her. Like, I'm not going to settle in like my 5-year-old gets periods. Like, I just won't.
Yeah, that's not right.
So I was a hysterical basket case and I was pushing to get this cyst removed. Like, I literally was like, I don't care what we have to do. I was like, I will take her to the hospital right now and fight. Like, this has to be moved. And so they ended up, the surgeon was, and this is like me talking as a mom, not trying to be offensive, but like, he was a 60-plus-year-old man that was going on vacation and didn't want to be bothered. It was a very hard place to be. And I'm literally like talking to him. So he ended up calling me after I left the pediatrician and he's like, so what's going on? I'm like, you know what's going on. They're emailing you. They're trying to schedule this to be removed and you just don't want to do it. And he's like, well, I'm leaving. And I was like, I don't care. Find someone.
If you don't want to do it, connect someone else to it.
And I literally was like, I was like pouring my heart out of like her behavior and like, just like, she literally, when I tell you fits of rage, like, girl didn't know which end was up. Like, it was awful to watch. It was like as if you were talking to an 18-year-old, like, talking back to you.
Could you do me a quick favor?
Yeah.
Your mic twisted to the side. Can you twist it right back there? There we go. Perfect. Continue.
It was like talking to an 18-year-old child, but she's 5, and she has no idea like why she's raging. You know
she's never experienced that before.
Never. But it was like weeks of this, and I was like, this is what's happening. And the surgeon was like, oh, really? I didn't know that. And I was like, if you would just have talked to me on the phone, like I'd been asking for weeks. Come to find out, the endocrinologist messaged him. So, mind you, I'm fighting for emergency surgery on September 18th, and on September 12th, her endocrinologist had sent the surgeon a message like, hey, if we don't get this cyst out of her, like, she's going to get a menstrual cycle. 6 days. You had the opportunity to get it out of her system, and in 6 days she wouldn't have had to deal with it. You know what I mean? And they didn't, and he just was, didn't care. So
have you thought about, I don't know.
No, only because I don't want to relive it.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I don't think I had a case, to be honest. So I don't think it would have done anything good for me. But he ended up finding somebody from his practice, also named Sarah. So I thought that was a coincidence.
Ironic.
It was a God incident for me. But like, they called, they set up the fact that, she was going to have surgery, and we rushed her in the next morning. So I taught her how to, it got to the point where like, Zerai was literally like, hey mom, it's time. Like, I need to change my pad. And I'm like, okay. And like, she was so comfortable. She was so okay with it that like, I knew that I had to be strong. You know what I mean? I knew that I had to figure it out and not let my emotions get the best of me, which is very hard.
Kids are resilient, man.
It was wild to me. But she has done so many ultrasounds, so many MRIs, so many needles, so many that like.
For her, it's normal.
For her, it's normal, but it's also very hard because she knows what the hospital is. She knows what the MRIs. She knows that she has to get, needles, and like, she'll fight you tooth and nail. She does not care. But she's very like resilient at the same time. You know what I mean? So like, you're watching your baby go in, and like, I don't care how many times your child goes to the hospital for whatever reason, or surgery or imaging, like, every time they wheel that hospital bed out, like, you cry like a blubbering baby. Like, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And like, my kid didn't have cancer. She didn't, you know what I mean? Like, that is crazy to me that these parents go through this. Like, it was so heartbreaking to watch the minimal things that we had to deal with and know that other people deal so terribly with it. You know what I mean? In so many different ways.
Yeah, you think life is hard, and then you either experience it, or you heard people, it's like, you're like, well, I had a cyst, and you're like, well, I've had cancer my entire body, and it's like, oh.
Yeah. So that was the hard part, is like going into surgery, they prepped with, I don't know, depending on what we see when we get in there, I don't know if I can save her ovary. She's 5, and you're telling me that now you're going to potentially have to, when, you know, they got in there, it was 6 centimeters. It was this big. Size of navel orange.
As a 5-year-old.
And her little body, like, it took, that's why she was throwing up. That's why, like, it was huge. And it, like, they were like, you know, we might have to take her ovary if it's damaged at all, and, like, I'm over here, like, she's 5, and now we're lessening her chances of having babies by 50%. Like, as a mom, like...
Extra hard.
I can't even tell you, like, how many times I cried over it. Because I was like, if they had to remove her ovary, like, what if she was already, like, infertile for some reason? You know what I mean? And then I'm, like, making it, or, like, you know, if she would have had difficulties or endometriosis or any of it, like, now I'm even lessening the chance. Now it's even worse. You know what I mean? So, like, the things that I went through in that. But, like, she didn't understand any of it, so that was a little easier. But they did the surgery, took it out, and what's weird is women's ovaries are very much
I was
like...
gonna say, I don't have any ovaries.
No, yeah. Very much like the liver. They regenerate. And they heal themselves like the eyes do, and the mouth, like, quickly. So they just, like, peeled it back kind of like an orange, like an onion. And it ended up that it was just, like, just there. And they don't know how it got there. They don't know what happened. They don't know...
So her ovaries okay?
Her ovaries are good.
Wow.
But they don't know where it came from and how it got there. They don't know if the cyst produced the estrogen or the estrogen produced the cyst, which is a problem either way. And she's supposed to be, if she's still producing estrogen, which I'm not sure. We don't know 100%. We knew right after that her blood work had gone immensely down, like as soon as they removed it. So we're tracking her blood work. But if they want to put her on medication, going back to the medication, they want to put her on medication to block the estrogen. And I don't know, like, holistically, there's nothing that I can do. You know what I mean? Like, she can't have soy, she can't have lavender, like, all of these things produce estrogen. So, like, we have, you know, her on a better diet. Girl loves edamame. Poor baby. It's literally the only protein she'll eat. She hates chicken. Like, I literally am like, the one thing in the world that she likes, and you take it away from her. You know what I mean? Like, and that's where my relationship with God, I'm like, what is happening? Like, the one food she genuinely enjoys, she can't have.
Yeah.
And, like, that part breaks my heart because we didn't know until after. And she was like, that's where I was like, okay, did we do this by allowing her to eat soy? Well, soy produces estrogen. But, like, did we create that? They have no idea. You know what I mean? But still, like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, so with all this and with what you've been through, I've always been fascinated by people's faith walks and what they believe and why they believe it. And, you know, we've had a lot of conversations about God and faith in the past year. So how have you processed your faith? Not even just with this whole situation, but, you know, being someone that kind of seems like they're on the outside of things and looking at it from a different perspective.
I feel like I kind of stick to the realm of, like, your relationship with God is what you put into it. Like, I believe in the fact, like, I believe most of the Bible. I think we've talked about this. Like, I have a hard time wrapping my brain around the burning bush and the stories and, like, not the divine power of healing, but that, like, why one man? You know what I mean? Like, but, like, I understand the history. And, like, I believe in the fact that there's got to be more to life. There's got to be, you know, like, I feel like this sounds terrible coming out, but saying it out loud, but, like, I'd rather believe in something than believe in nothing. And I feel like sometimes I believe in God incidences. I believe that things happen for a reason. I believe in the universe aligning. But I feel like God has control over all of that. So, like, I can believe in the universe and believe in God at the same time because he created the universe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like...
No, I get that.
And we believe that, and we're taught that. And I feel like, if you can believe in something, like, why not have the attachment to, like, moving forward? You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to be like, I'm just gonna die and it's just gonna be black. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who wants to live like that? So I'd rather live in the moment of, like, I can go to heaven and I can, you know what I mean, just by being a good person. Like, I have a hard time with, like, the Catholic religion and, like, different just aspects of Christianity and what it, you know, produces in, you know, different teams. Sorry, I got hair in my nose now,
you're good.
which is, so I feel like there's this, like, big thing of, like, all these different, you know, aspects when I'm like, I could just believe in God and, like, go to church and enjoy it. And we found a church home a couple of years ago, and we finally found, like, we can walk by faith, but we don't have to overcommit. You know what I mean? To what we genuinely believe.
And it's not blind faith.
No. And, like, I look at these, like, not the protesters, what are they called? The evangelists that, like, that life, like, if you're called into ministry, do your thing, Batman. Like, I don't have a problem with it. You know what I mean? But it's cringy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it can be cringy. I want to love like Jesus, but at the same time, I don't want to embarrass myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and I think that, like...
I think sometimes it can go overboard.
Yeah, it definitely can. And I've noticed that what people often equate is, oh, so if you're a follower of Jesus and you love Jesus, then you commit yourself to working at a church.
Right.
Either as volunteer or as a worker, or you have to do a small group. And obviously, like, I believe in the importance of going to church, and
Absolutely.
you need that community, and I think that small groups are important. But logically, I don't think that there's nowhere in the Bible that says if you don't have a small group, you're going to hell.
Right.
I think what's more important, and what we need more as a society, is less people saying that they're going to church and more people acting like actual Christians outside of church.
But I think we can do a little bit of both, because
Yeah.
he does say where two or more are gathered, there I'll be.
Yeah, and it's important.
I have the chills, because it's more so the fact that, like, you can believe the same thing as somebody else. Like, we believe in the same God. We believe the same thing. But in the same way, like, I love going to church because it makes me feel better. I love worshiping because I love music. I love song. But, like,
The connection.
the connection to me, like, I believe that I have a direct tie to talking to him. Do I believe I can hear him? No, I don't. Like, I believe in signs and, like, you know, like, but I also am like, you need to do this for me right now. Like, I'm not like that. I'm like, you know, like, I'd rather believe in a higher power and know that, like, I can feel okay with making minor mistakes. Like, I curse like a sailor. Like, I know that my children know that it's not okay, and that, but at the same time, like, I can't help it.
Yeah.
I had a traumatic childhood that I, like, you know what I mean?
Well,
that, like,
we're all a work in progress.
absolutely, but I don't want to feel bad for the fact that I say the F word. You know what I mean? When I don't think it changes my intelligence. I don't think, like, it shows my frustration. It shows my comedy. You know what I mean? Like, it shows my personality, who God's created me to be. Like, why should I feel like it's a fault because it hurts your feelings?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, in a way, like, what is wrong with the F word?
Well, and what I've noticed is, like, there's been such a weight that's been put on vulgarity, but not on gossip.
Right.
And I've known people, because I've been in church situations for basically all my life, where they would never say okay, here's a good example. I think I've asked you this before. What is worse, saying, like, you're effing amazing, or bless your heart, and knowing that bless your heart is not good?
It's malicious.
Yes.
So, like, that's the thing, is, like, if your intent is to be malicious, and being a hairstylist, I gossip all the time. I want to know about your sister's cousin's best friend's grandma. You know what I mean? I want to know that she cheated on her husband. But if I'm not out here being like, ooh, you can't, I know my audience. I know that, like, I'm telling you because, you know, if you were to come to me and be like, nobody else can know, I'm going to hold that secret.
Yeah.
Ooh, I keep touching. I'm going to hold that secret.
You good?
But I don't believe in, like, maliciously sharing it. Like, if something negatively is going to affect you, I'm going to let you know. That to me is not gossip.
Yeah.
But if I, like, going back to the old salon, there was so much drama in the salon that, like, talking about people was like, rah, 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 you know what I mean?
Consistent, yeah.
But when I didn't like somebody, I'm telling you, I don't like you because of this. If you keep coming back acting like I'm mean, it's not my fault I don't like you. I can, you know, I can love like Jesus and not like you.
Yeah.
But I don't have to be mean. But if you're coming and nagging and getting at me, like, you're under my skin and you're trying me, like, I'm going to show you that I love Jesus, but I have a wit's end.
Well, why do you think people equate love to acceptance?
Because they don't know any better.
Explain.
My mom was an alcoholic.
Okay, I didn't know this.
I love her. I can't accept her actions. I can't accept the fact that I'm always second fiddle. My whole life, I've been her second choice to alcohol. I can love her unconditionally as my mom. I don't have to like her. I don't have to, like, and that's the thing that we're going through right this moment is, like, I'm being told, like, just accept it and move on. Like, it's jacked up. Why do I have to accept something that my mom is choosing when it's not my fault? You know, like, God made me her child. He chose me. He, you know, put me in her womb. But, like, that's where I'm like, that's a battle.
Yeah.
That's a battle of, like, why me? Why my daughter? Why, you know what I mean? But I can have these questions and still love my relationship with God unconditionally. I can love my mom unconditionally because of the bond of being a daughter.
But not accept what she's doing.
No.
Yeah.
Why do I have to accept being the adult all the time when all I want to do is be your child?
Well, I'd actually argue that that's real love. I think if you didn't love someone, then you would just, you know, oh, you're burning your life away? Okay, go ahead.
Right. And more than that, like, but it's not acceptable for me to just be like, do your thing.
Yeah.
Because then I look like the bad guy because I'm not, you know, allowing her to live her own life. Like, no, do your thing. But don't expect me to have to sit back and wait. So that's a battle that we deal with. And, like, that's super sad to me because I do feel like you can love somebody but still have boundaries. Why do we mash the two? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of things. Like, why do I have to love Jesus and just live in this lifestyle of, like, it's all I do? Like, I don't understand how people can genuinely, like, engulf themselves, like, in Christianity and act like nothing else. The world doesn't exist. You know, like, kind of that mentality where it's like, everything's fine. You know what I mean?
It's fake.
That's exactly. And, like, but you look at these people and I'm like, you've cried yourself to sleep every night. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't possibly feel like there's nothing else in this world that's going to, you know, let you down.
Yeah. All right. Don't talk for a second.
Yeah.
You're doing great, by the way.
Thanks. I'm gonna wash you.
All right.
Move.
I'll be right back. Alrighty, and what am I doing now? Got you mid-pour.
Mid-pour. We're gonna shampoo ya.
Oh, okay.
So move that.
Ooh.
It's a little bit low, so.
Oh my, it is low.
There you go. Is it better?
Oh, this is perfect.
Would you like hot, warm, super cold?
So I think, like, one of the first questions I had with you when you first had me, I was your first client, like, you know, a year ago. And you gotta tell me a story about this. I've heard that people moan when they're getting their
I had
hair
one
washed.
yesterday.
Wait, it happened yesterday? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Can you give me the deets?
It's like, I feel like it's also in how comfortable you are. I'd rather people be that comfortable with me to enjoy and relax and, like, moan, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, the guy that I had yesterday is super comfortable in who he is, and I'm super comfortable in the fact that he's married. He loves his wife. We talked about it. His wife's not going to do this for him. You know what I mean? Like, so if in the moment I can make you forget all of your troubles, I'm going to do that with a shampoo.
Yeah.
You know? Is this too hot or is it okay?
Oh, this is perfect.
But I feel like this is somewhere that people are very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can make them feel comfortable in their vulnerability to moan, I mean, so be it.
So why do you do the shampoo and the conditioner during the hairstyling?
So I can't cut, like, with the clippers, I can't cut your hair wet.
Okay.
So I do it halfway. Not everybody does that. Like, some people wait till the end, but you have a lot of hair on the top of your head, so why not soak it before I cut it? Because cutting it wet is the way to go.
Why is that?
For just accuracy and the precision, the cutting of the lines and stuff like that. Like, if you want it to be straight, you want it all to be cohesive. And dry, it can be like out of place or something like that. So you can dry cut, but I feel like a lot of people dry cut for like wispiness and, you know, just seeing the way you wear it. But I know the way you wear it, so I can cut it wet and still meet goals.
I see what you're saying. So what is the most expensive thing you've done for a client?
Extensions.
Yeah.
My first extension client was $2,300.
Ooh. Were they getting their hair gold or something?
No, I had to purchase hair, which good extensions are human hair. And they pay...
It's real human hair?
It's real human hair, but it goes through a process, so it's not as weird as it seems. Like, let's say we'll go, you know, the China route or there's a lot of different places. Korea, a lot of Russia, like, people that have, like, genuinely nice hair will get paid a decent amount of money to grow their hair out and cut it off.
Really? Mm-hmm. Huh.
And they get paid, like, a decent amount of money.
And this is all, like, legal, right?
Yeah. There's huge businesses in it. But then it goes through a strict, like, process of acid washing and, like, genuine sanitization and all kinds of stuff like that, so.
So she was just getting an extension done, and that's why it was so expensive?
Yeah, because you're not only buying real human hair, but then it takes quite a process I measure and all that stuff. I'm very
thorough.
I'm very thorough. And if I were to get this is what I would want, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So you put beads in, and then you sew hair onto the beads and teach them how to care for it, and it's an art, so it's very expensive. I charge for a new extension install $100 a row, depending on how much hair you have or don't have, depends on how much hair you use and don't use, so it's a whole thing.
So let me ask you this then. What is the secret to pricing yourself in this industry? Or just like,
That's a really great question. It's hard. So I actually just had a consultation, extension client yesterday, a new client from Michigan. And she said, it's crazy the prices, how different they are and how expensive it is here. And I was like, it's expensive here because of the amount of people that we have and the caliber of people and the quality, you know what I mean? Like, if I feel like in this industry, like, I'm pretty, like, maybe, like, high, mid-grade, like, I'm in, like, the high middle class, I'd say.
Yeah.
Whereas there's very luxurious people that, you know, the more they pay for it, the more great it looks, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? But there's people that don't price themselves well and are working, you know, way too hard for the fact that they're skilled in what they do and they're good at it, you know?
Yeah.
But I think, like, knowing your worth in the industry, that's with anything. Like, if you prioritize, I go to school, we do continuing education, we go, you know, they have classes that teach you, like, what you're worth as a hairstylist, like, what the industry is charging, like.
So you actually go through classes for that?
Yeah, you can, absolutely.
Interesting. So what has helped you recognize your worth in this industry?
Recognize my worth.
It's all in the wording.
I feel like that part's hard because the recognizing comes from y'all. You know what I mean? It comes from my clients. The
Interesting.
happiness, the consistency. Like, I know my worth based on my book, which is really sad. But I knew going into this that this was my career. I knew that I had to change my life to put food on the table for my kids. And not that my husband wasn't able to carry us at the time. He totally was, still is. But in this day and age, like, the sad part is $100,000 in your bank account is nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Especially in Florida.
in a year, like, that's nothing. So the two of us combined have to make immense amounts of money to be able to play. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but like, we're working hard, and we can't even take our kids to Disney. Like, it's wild to me. But I would say, like, the way I've been able to, like, come out of hair school and just, like, I dove deep. And I knew that if I didn't get it, I wouldn't get it. If I didn't try and I didn't put myself out there, like, it's nerve-wracking as hell. Because in hair school, they don't teach you anything.
Really?
No, it's literally, like, the bare minimum. It's literally getting out of high school and getting your first job and not being trained.
So, what was the main thing that you learned in hair school then? Like, was it even useful? I mean, are we allowed to bash hair school?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the amount of money that a lot of these schools cost and the fact that you just have to pass a test, I think that it should change.
Okay.
I think that it should be like what are the high school programs where you, like, on the job training? I think that if that were what hair school was, people would learn so much faster, so much better. Like, I would have paid for hair school no problem. Mind you, hair school was $24,000.
Oh my God, it was that expensive?
13th, and that's without for 15 months. $24,000 for 15 months. And, like, all I had to do was take a $100 test. Maybe it's $150, I don't know. But, like, and it's one test that you have to pass. And you have to have 1,200 hours of, like, hands-on. Like, how come we can't have 1,200 hours of hands-on in a job where I'm getting paid to do so? Why, you know, like, and even if I'm not getting paid, like, why am I paying for hair school when I'm not getting paid doing anything else? Like, I couldn't have a job because it was a 9 to 5.
Yeah, it took so much time.
It took so much time, and I had 3 kids, you know what I mean? So it's like, how can I have a job, do hair, learn, you know what I mean, when it's in reality just going to be, you know, I had to learn. So I got out of hair school and I got a job right away. I applied at a salon. I actually took a month off. Let me not lie. I took a month off to study for my test and everything. And I was really overwhelmed just in general with life. So I took a month off and I studied really well and did really good on my tests. And then you take 2 tests. You take one for chemical and one for practical. So once you pass, you then find a job. And the salon that I went to actually did, like, you know, a training basically. So you are her assistant and she, you know, walks you through everything she does. And then you can go out on your own whenever you're ready, basically after 3 months. So I did the 90 days and she's like, I'm not letting you stay because you're, you know, you do really well.
You're ready. Yeah.
So I went out on my own and even in the 3 months, like, when I tell you, like, I passed my card out to everyone. Everyone. But getting out of hair school, like, in that 3 months, I learned everything all over again because hair school just teaches you the absolute bare minimum, and you don't learn without practicing on people. And surprisingly enough, a lot of people don't go to hair schools to get their hair cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so you don't really get adequate practice, and the people that do go to hair school don't have high expectations.
Yeah, because you're a student.
It's the bare minimum. You know what I mean? And it's cheap. So I think that it's all like a money hungry kind of a thing now. They do have hair schools that are government funded, and I believe very highly in those now. I tell everybody, like, don't waste your money. Hair schools, government funded hair schools are like $4,000 compared to $24,000.
Oh my gosh.
But I couldn't do it at the time because it was based on the school schedule. So it would have taken me twice as long to get that education and I didn't have that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I get that.
but if you're like young and can handle it, like do it to it. So
a lot of people don't realize the amount of work it takes to do a job like this. I mean, even in the serving world or in the working in a church world, no one understands the amount of like skills you need to be good
well
at that.
now, crazy enough, like now owning my own, I'm not just a hairstylist. Like
You're a
now
business owner.
I'm a business owner, but I'm also I'm a hairstylist. I'm a counselor. I'm a therapist. I'm a colorist. I'm a cleaning lady. I take all the pictures. I'm a photographer. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the list goes on.
Yeah.
But you also have to like take into consideration that like people's expectations. So like even being realistic, like there's a lot that goes into not being able to leave it here. Like that's one thing that I didn't know. That's one thing I didn't know coming into this was that coming into my own was that I couldn't leave it at work.
What do you mean?
So at the old salon, like if I was having an issue or I had a bad day, like it wasn't my business to run. I accepted it and moved forward. Now I have to think about it 24/7.
Yeah.
Which is
'Cause
not
it's your
fun.
life.
It's not fun. It's not what I expected. But I'm completely capable. Oh, and like on top of all the other job listings, I have to be a CPA in some way because I have to figure out how to pay myself. I gotta, you know what I mean? Like I can get all the advice in the world, but like if you're not paying taxes, you're gonna lose. You know what I mean? Like so, your part's on this side, right?
No.
This way.
Other side. Yeah, that one. No. There we go.
Goodness, this is what I do to everybody.
No, it happens.
I know your brother, sister's cousin, but I don't know your part.
No, I'm the same way. I can pull out some random fact about what Nietzsche said in the 1800s, but I forget people's birthdays or names.
But I mean, the business side of it is really hard. It takes a toll and it's very difficult. But going from a salon to salon entrepreneurship was more of like an easy decision when everything fell into place. Like I wasn't looking to move. I wasn't looking to change my life drastically. I mean, again, my husband was changing jobs and careers and in school. And he told me to go check this place out, and I did, and that kind of started this whole thing. And I wasn't ready at all, but I knew that I'd have to figure it out one way or another. And I told myself, if she could do it, I could do it. If they could do it, I could do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I knew that I wanted more for my kids. Like, I went to hair school after we decided what I was going to do with the rest of my life. To have a better schedule, to be more present in my kids' lives, to not have to do a 9-to-5 where my kids still saw me on a daily basis. You know what I mean?
You're planning your future.
Absolutely. And I wanted something that would, like, I didn't have to work. Like, this is not work to me. I love every second of this.
Yeah.
Every second. I'm not mad about it at all.
That's how I feel about podcasting. Like, I mean, it's weird because I've done video editing for 10 years. I've done graphic editing for like 10 to 15 years. But when it comes to this, it's so easy and second nature for me that like I could edit a video for 5 hours, 10 hours, because some of these do take a very long time to work on, which no one will ever see, but it's so much fun.
And I think that's the thing is like going back to that, like if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Like it's life changing.
Yeah.
Like watching my husband thrive by now doing something that he feels seen. He feels, that he had people in his life that were encouraging him to change, like, you'd be great at this, and he did. And now, like, I'm watching his personality just soar. I'm watching his, like, is he tired? Absolutely. He's working nights. It's awful. But
he's doing his dream.
And it's not even a dream that he even thought he was going to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just the fact that he changed it knowing that he was so unhappy. Like, I would watch him come home on a daily basis and, like, just drained. And, like, he was dealing with bullshit. And it just was, like, they didn't respect him. He wasn't getting paid. You know what I mean? Like, it was awful. And to know that, like, that's the way the world works, unfortunately, and you just have to deal with it. Like, why do we have to live that way? Why, you know what I mean? Like, that's crazy to me. And I think that that's what pushed me to go out on my own And when I found this place, like, the landlords were phenomenal, like phenomenal. I saw it on my birthday, which is September 14th. My daughter, you know, had her emergency surgery on the 19th, and I was supposed to make a decision of whether or not I wanted this space. And I texted her and I was like, I'm not in the headspace. I can't. My daughter's in surgery. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, say less. I'll pray for her. Like, to me, that was God.
Yeah.
That was all God. And like, he allowed this person to, you know, and even in our, I'll call it an interview, but like, even in seeing the space, like, we looked at a couple different ones. This space wasn't actually available. But like, talking to her, and like, I just mentioned, like, my daughter has health issues. I want to be able to like take her to the doctor and not have to worry about it. Like, she's like, you know, she's like, you don't have to tell me, but like, my husband had cancer, and you know, I think that,
Yeah, connect with the right people, man.
yeah, like, and she was able to even point me. We were on the fence before the surgery about taking her to Johns Hopkins in Tampa or St. Pete, and like, getting different opinions, because I want somebody like, for lack of better description, like House, the doctor who just like takes on these cases. Like, that's all that I want, is even if we don't find absolute answers, I want more than what she's getting.
Yeah.
Because now I'm living my life in just the total unknown of like, well, what if this happens? You know what I mean? And like, we've now run into a what if, and now we're supposed to just accept that and just move forward. Like, that's crazy to me. So we were looking at Johns Hopkins, and weirdly enough, like, I didn't even say much. That's all I said was like, well, we're looking into like, you know, maybe finding a teaching hospital or somebody that can like, you know, just look over a case. And she's like, well, my husband had surgery and we had a great experience with Johns Hopkins and blah, blah, blah. And like, he had cancer and did all of this other stuff. And like, to have, you know, like, how else would that have happened?
Yeah.
That's why I believe in God, because I'm like, there's no way in my, you know, believing of, you know, if there was no God, like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
How is that not, you know, a divine interaction of like, she needs this clarity, she needs this heart, she, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of a mindset. So to me, that's like, how do you not believe in God? You know what I mean? How do you not believe that things happen for a reason and stuff like that?
Yeah. So let's say someone's listening to this and they're thinking about taking a step towards their dream or what they've always wanted to do. What would be some advice that you would give them?
What's holding you back? What are the excuses that you're making for yourself? Because I made a lot of them. I made a lot of excuses of, there's no way, like, my dad told me, going back to saying, like, there's no money in the industry. Like, how are so many hairstylists in the area? There's literally 30 people in here, and 25 of them are hairstylists. You know what I mean? Like, and we all have full clientele. Like, how is this not where I could be?
Yeah, yeah.
And I waited till I was 30. Imagine what I would be right now if I went when I was 18. If I believed in myself enough to follow through.
Well, I think there's a pro and con to that. Like,
absolutely. I wouldn't have been in the lifestyle. I wouldn't have my kids. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well,
I
not
would have
even
been
that.
totally
I think
placed.
that you handled everything so well when you transitioned here, like an adult. I don't necessarily know if you would have done if you were 18 or 20.
I agree. But like, seeing the growth even in the industry, like, I think I would have worked just as hard, because that's just kind of the person that I am. Like, even bartending, I worked really hard. Like, I loved it. But I feel like there's always reasons to why things don't fall into place at certain times. Like, you know, it goes back to, you know, God closes a door and opens a window. Like, I feel like that same thing applies to like our mindset of like, if you have any doubt, allow that doubt to explain itself.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to feel the doubt of like, why are you feeling this way?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? But still, like, being open to learning. Like, I'll never tell you that I'm the best. I'll never tell you that I know 100% of what I'm doing. There's a lot of times where I'm like, let's try it. You know what I mean? But even in my brain, like, even with like every cut, like, I trust the process. And I never, when I was younger, was able to say that. You know, like, we were like, oh, well, I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So, like, I agree in the statement where, like, had I done it younger, you know, it wouldn't have been the same. But I do feel like I would have been a really quality hairstylist at a young age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know that it would have been life-changing for me a long time ago, but I wouldn't have experienced life the way I did. I love now the experiences that I've had, the people that I've met. Like, this industry is life-changing for a lot of people. But unfortunately, it's hard. But, like, what industry isn't? You know? Like, you can be a great pastor and a great public speaker, but if you don't put in, you know, the time to create your sermons and, you know, doing all that, like...
Well, and, I mean, coming from that world, most guys, they don't... a lot of people think that pastoring is, like...
You just get up on stage and talk.
Yeah, and that's, like, 5% of what you do.
Literally.
Almost... I actually was making jokes when I was pastor. I was like, I'm actually more of an event planner than a pastor.
Absolutely.
But, you know, that's the thing I think that made me really good at it, because at the job that I worked at, I had basically like a tenth of the budget that all the other places had. And it was a mobile site, so we had to
pack up everything all the time.
Yeah, so nothing was guaranteed on a weekend.
Annoying.
But in a weird way, I heard a long time ago that constraints are actually the way that you become creative.
Oh, man.
Because if you have unlimited budgets, you don't have creative solutions.
Absolutely.
You just waste money. So I think in some ways, the way that my brain worked actually thrived in that area, because I was like, oh, well, we don't have any money. Let's think about what makes us successful.
Absolutely.
And focus on just that. And you know what? We're not even in the same game as other people. And in a weird way, we became... in my opinion, we were way overachieving what we could have done. Because we had good people and we were just doing something different.
But you also stepped up to the plate. And I think that was the difference too, is like even moving here, like I begged and pleaded for an out, where meaning like not necessarily an out of hairstyling, but like I wanted help to open my business. I fought hard to get a small business loan. I didn't get one. And I was like, I literally was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to open? We don't have money. Like, I made every excuse as to why doing it this way was a bad idea.
Yeah.
And my husband, leaving this interview, said, if you don't do this, you will regret it.
That's a good man right there.
And I was like, knowing that he watched me. He watched me through hair school. He watched me through my first salon. He watched me for 3 years, like, struggle. But he knew that I was passing my cards out to everyone. I literally passed my cards out to people at Waffle House. I gained a client out of it. You know what I mean? Like, that kid's never going to forget me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, if I can impact one person, you know what I mean? With a good haircut. Like, the kid had dreads when he came in.
Ooh.
Like, matted. Like, it was bad. Under a hairnet. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I changed his life.
Yeah.
Never saw him at Waffle House again. Hopefully he got a better job. You know what I mean? Like, but it was like, that's the quality of person that I am, that like, I'm not in it for the money. Does it have great benefits if you're good? Yeah. But I'm here.
Your haircut was so good, you literally got him out of Waffle House.
I mean, I don't know that 100%, but that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's that mindset that like, my husband believed in me because I believed in me. You know, and like, I don't necessarily like to show my marriage. Like, I don't need his approval for anything. He knows I'm going to do it. Like,
yeah.
But to have his support, like, he's not a man of like, you know, you have to do this, you should do that. Like, he's very much like, I mean, if you want to, you know, like, go for it.
Yeah.
Where I'm over here like, no, give me direction. You know what I mean? Because I was scared.
You want guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. I was terrified. And I knew that my decision affected our entire life. But he was like, when we left here, he was like, you're going to regret this. This is like the best place that we've seen. Like, la da 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 da. And like, he went to every interview with me before, and I was like, the fact that he's this invested in my career, even though he's not a part of the business.
It gives you peace in a sense.
Absolutely. But having somebody, like, people to talk to, like, all my friends, like, everybody was so supportive. Like, my clients, I literally was terrified I was going to lose 20%. Because that's the going rate. Weirdly enough, I haven't lost one.
Ooh.
And it's like, and if I did lose them, it's not because anything I did. It was because they haven't come in for a haircut, or they've, you know, found somebody that was closer to their house or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
it wasn't dissatisfaction with you.
No, and like, I genuinely was like, hey, if I move, like, how far will you drive? And they're like, what? That's not the question. And I didn't realize it wasn't the location that they were staying for, which was weird to me, because like, going back to self-worth. Do I know I'm good at my craft? Absolutely. But do I think I'm worth it over somebody else? No. Do I think that way? No.
Yeah.
Would I, like, because I'm competitive, be like, let's look at your hair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's try this out.
You want to be the best in your area.
Absolutely. But I know that comes at a cost too. So, like, I'm not going to hurt myself to keep Joe Schmo if Joe Schmo's unhappy with what I'm doing. But it wasn't just the haircuts that were keeping these people. Like, the one guy I had twice before I moved. And he drives from downtown Fort Myers. And I was like, oh, this is just kind of like the area that I'm in that he came here. So, like, it was definitely distance for him. It wasn't me. And when I told him that I was moving, he's like, I'll follow you. And I literally looked at him and I was like, why? And, like, it was more, like, I was shocked because I was like, I've only cut your hair twice. Like, I don't even know you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just kind of said, oh, I can hook you up with one of the girls here. You know what I mean? And he's like, you don't want me? And I was like, what? And he's like, I'm going to follow you. And I was like, really? And it was more so, like, shocking because I was like, well, what is it about me? And he's like, you've done 2 great haircuts. Why would I try and
go
find somebody else? Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. And then now he's like, I mean, your personality's not terrible. You know what I mean?
What a compliment.
What a compliment.
You don't suck that much.
No, you're not that bad. But, like, that was the part too that I'm like, oh, people do like me. You know what I mean? But I'm, in my own opinion, an asshole. Like, you're not going to be able to say anything to me that I haven't heard from somebody else. 1. 2, I'm very comfortable in my own skin to tell you how I feel about you if I, you know, like, if I feel like you're doing something wrong or if I feel like you're, you know, like, we've talked about relationships.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, I'm not going to hold back. I think I had a client actually move that I think I pushed a little too hard because I was, like, just wanting to pour into himself. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to be, like, I'm never malicious, but I'm like, why are you doing that to yourself? Like,
but you don't think he was ready to hear it?
No, I don't. And I think that that's why, like, I lost him a long time ago, but I don't feel like I lost him. I don't think I lost him. I think I changed his perspective and he didn't want to hear it. And so then he was never comfortable coming back to me. But he was going through a lot, you know what I mean? And he, you know, lost his mom. He was in a relationship that he hated. And I was like, why are you doing this to yourself? You know what I mean? So I don't see it as, like, you know, he never said anything bad about me or anything like that. But it's kind of like reflecting and being like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. My bad. You know what I mean? But, like,
well, you learned.
I did learn. I absolutely learned. So now I question everything. Like, are you comfortable enough for... And I think we said that the last time.
Yeah.
In regards to relationships, I was like, are you comfortable hearing what I have to say?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And I'm finding... I have clients that give me great advice with my 13-year-old. Are we here to solve or are we here to listen? I need to be more like that.
Yeah.
Even with my clients. Like, if you don't need advice on something, I shouldn't say anything.
Well, that's one of the beautiful things I've learned. Whenever I have friends that want to talk to me about stuff, the first thing I ask now, which for those, my close friends that are listening, they're probably going to laugh at this. I ask them, is this a thing where you want my opinion or you just want me to listen?
Absolutely.
And it does 2 things. One, it helps me because sometimes I'm really interested in giving opinions, but they're not ready for that. Or they don't need to. You know, some people... talking it out will help them solve it.
Which is me.
It also kind of helps me as well because, like, for example, there's been times in the past where someone's like, I want an opinion. And then I explain my opinion. Like, that's actually really rude. I don't like that. I'm like, well, you told me you wanted this. Like, do you want me to lie? And that's kind of almost, in a way, like, helped me on the back end. Yeah. Because then it's like, okay, we both understand what the rules of the game are.
But it also shows growth. You know what I mean? Like, it also shows yourself of what you're capable of doing, but at the same time, like, going into something else, like, going into this, like, I never thought I would be able to have these conversations. Like, I thought being alone in a room with people would be weird. Okay. And so I, like, never really wanted to do it because I was like, who's going to save me if I get my foot in my mouth? You know what I mean? Whereas now I'm calling my own self out. Like,
do you think that's because you didn't trust yourself or more like...
I put my foot in my mouth all the time.
You kind of, like, just come out of your shell a bit.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Like, okay. I feel like in getting older, especially in my 30s, I've come to the conclusion that, like, I don't necessarily... I gotta get the water, sorry.
You're good.
I don't necessarily have to care what other people think of me, one. And two, like, if you don't like me, you don't have to stay.
Yeah.
You know, and like everybody is their own person, and like I no longer feel bad for the person that I am. I can't apologize for it. You know what I mean? And
I'll be honest, that's a hard one for people to learn.
Absolutely.
Like, I struggle with that, man.
Absolutely. But it took me believing in myself, going out on my own, and like even at the other salon, like again, going back to like it was drama filled, but I was also fighting for my life for one person to understand that like I didn't care for them, but they didn't know how to take that information, and they're not a bad person. They're a great person, but I just didn't care for them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Like, but I didn't have to stand, like, just because I'm a Christian doesn't mean I have to accept everything about you. You know what I mean? Like, but I wasn't trying to be malicious until I was backed into a corner, and then I became the problem. And I'm like, no, like, this isn't my fault.
Yeah.
This is the fact that you can't understand that, like, when I say no, I mean no, you know, kind of a conversation.
Yeah,
but it becomes personality. Like, oh, well, she's just mean. No, I'm honest. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not my fault that you can't handle that.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't care the whole time. Like, can I care that I hurt your feelings? Absolutely. But can I also not care that I hurt your feelings? Because that's not my fault.
Yeah.
It's not my fault that your feelings were hurt yet again.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I definitely understand and agree with all that.
But that's a hard pill to swallow. Like, I'm getting to the point in my age, which I feel like as you approach 40 even, like, I'm 36, and I literally, like, for, again, lack of better terms, like, I no longer have fucks to give. But it's, like, realizing that even in family, even in, like, my parenting, like, life is hard enough.
Yeah.
Like, why do I have to put myself into situations that, like, I don't even want to be in? Like, why would I get this space and lock myself into weird conversations?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When I can just be honest and be, like, you know, laugh with people and joke with people and, you know, play whatever music I want. And
I also think that makes you more of a genuine hairstylist, because then you're not trying to be someone else in order to please someone.
No. And, like, being in a different salon, like, I probably could wear what I'm wearing, but I'd get, like, really, that's not necessarily professional. Because they wanted a higher-esque, like, luxury feel. Well, like,
which is fine for what they want.
absolutely. But I feel like more of a tomboy trapped in a girl's body. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't even know my style. How do I dress appropriately if I don't even know what that is?
Yeah.
And it's, like, minor things in our life that, like, I'm 36 and I don't even know what kind of style I have or want in just clothing, and now you're going to ask me to be professional, put myself on a pedestal where people look at me and are like, oh, you're a hairstylist? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's weird. That's weird of these expectations that we have. So, like, coming in on my own, I was like, I don't want people to have to feel like they have to be somebody here. I want this door to be able to be closed and you feel like you have every opportunity to pour your heart out.
Yeah, definitely.
And not feel judged, but feel seen. But if you want me to have an opinion, I'll tell you my opinion. You know what I mean? But, like, if that hurts you, you know where you were coming.
And you can talk about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, like, I think that that's where and I think we've had this conversation before, where we go wrong as a society. People can't even have conversations anymore.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't talk to me about the election without getting angry, like, this is not a me problem, this is a you problem.
Regardless of which side.
Absolutely. Like, we can't have conversations about anything anymore.
Side topic.
Yeah.
So I was working at my restaurant during the inauguration.
Yeah.
And we had a special red, white, and blue, like, drink, you know, for a drink of the day. So my tagline, because I tried to think, okay, how can I sell this drink?
Absolutely.
So my tagline was, well, whether you're drinking to celebrate or to forget, you can have this drink.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But,
and, like, that's life. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and politics is just one of those weird things where, even more so than religion, civil discourse really breaks down, because you're no longer saying, I support or don't support this guy. You're saying, in a sense, what people hear is, I hate this.
Absolutely.
I hate everything you stand for.
Right.
And it's like, well, I can agree or disagree with some of what this person does.
Absolutely.
Or, you know, not everything that they do.
Listen, I feel like we're all independents and we're not allowed to think that way. Like, we all agree and disagree with multiple things about every person.
Yeah.
Can I agree to some, you know, like, I'm an independent. did I know what that meant at 18? No, but I knew that, like, I wouldn't get phone calls and, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because I'm not affiliated with a particular party. But I appreciate it now because I'm like, I'm an independent. Literally thinker, and the fact that you can't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but if you can't even have a conversation with me about why, I would love to know why people think the way they do. I would love to, I thrive on, like, asking hard questions. But if my hard question makes you uncomfortable, like, why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why does me asking you a question of, like, why you believe what you believe, like, why is that so difficult? And at the old salon, like, there was a lot of that for even politics that, like, we couldn't even bring it up. Like, couldn't even bring it up because it was, like argument.
It's taboo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, like, you want to argue, I got an argument. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to argue. I'm here to figure out, like, what it is you know, why you believe that, what your thought process is. How did we get here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely
And,
do
like,
that.
I stay ignorant. I don't watch the news. For a lot of reasons, but, like, I'd rather not know.
So I go the opposite route where I try to listen to as many different news sources as possible and as much independent work so that I can at least try to understand what the truth is.
Yeah.
But that also takes a lot of, like, extra work and dedication.
Absolutely. But have you found places to find unbiased opinions?
I found a few.
So, like, I would love to see that, but that takes time, too, of having to do all of that to just get one opinion.
Yeah, so my favorite one, have you heard of Ground News?
I haven't heard of any of it. I'm not kidding you. I'd rather stay away from it.
So
But anyways, go ahead.
this cool one is, so let's say there's a story about, like, the economy or something like that. And instead of reporting on it, it takes what every website in the internet reports.
Like AI?
And it compiles it all together. But the cool part is, so you can see what the headlines and what the right says, what the left says, and what the moderates say.
Wow.
So sometimes you'll get a story where it's all the exact same. But there's other times where they, like, highlight certain things. So it helps you with kind of deciphering, not necessarily what's push, but what their
Absolutely.
perspective is.
How long did it take you to find this website?
So it's a website and an app. I've actually had it for about a year and a half now. I found it because some of the YouTubers that I follow, which are more independent, were recommending it, and I was like, I'll do a trial and see how it is.
Absolutely.
Honestly, it's kind of been amazing.
Great. Yeah.
It's not perfect, like nothing is, but if it is probably the best way to get as many different sources and showing their bias. You know.
So can I tell you a hard, sad truth?
Yes.
I feel like I don't want to care because I feel like in the long run, like, we don't have a say anyway.
No, that's a totally fine perspective to have too.
So, like, it hurts my heart to be honest about that because I'm like, the fact that we don't have a say.
Yeah.
Genuinely, like, we can't even, like, wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, I'm going to do whatever I want today, even though we should be able to do that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying, and, you know, I'm not saying go out and kill people because obviously, let's be real, you know what I mean? But, like, I can't even run my business, bro. Like, I can't even come cut hair without politics being involved.
Yeah.
I want to understand it, but it's way above my head.
And there we go. 2 hours down, an amazing haircut, and a great talk with a close friend of mine. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Once again, definitely follow us on any social media. If you liked this content, like, subscribe, download, and definitely send it out to any of your friends. Let's get these numbers up, really get out the reach of what we can do. And I got some incredible guests coming up. I think you'll be very excited. Thank you so much.